Run for Your Life, usually seen at this time, will not be presented tonight, so that we may bring you the following special program.
Please support the Word Balloon podcast by going to patreon.com/wordballoon. Become a part of the League of Word Balloon listeners. That's patreon.com/wordballoon. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's time again for another Word Balloon Live, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Always happy to have a new edition of the Bendis Tapes. And,
could you hear my reaction?
No, I couldn't. No, because we were backstage. But do you know that show? Do you know Run for Your Life?
Yeah, it was as esoteric as you could have. That was exactly what I was hoping for. So I am, for those of you just joining us, that cold open preempting joke that John does, that is very early Letterman, is a favorite joke of mine, and I was very honored by the esotericness of the one that I just got. So
I literally am constantly looking, because thank God people upload their variety specials that they VCR'd, or I don't even know, because a lot of this stuff even goes back to the 60s, like the one I played, Run for Your Life, Ben Gazzara. If you know your Gilbert Gottfried stand-up, Ben Gazzara is a good actor. Why can't he get a TV series?
Or Big Lebowski, if you want to take it to somewhere near a modern reference, even though that's
and of course Roadhouse. You know, he's the bad guy in Roadhouse. A lot of great movies. Yep. And Buffalo 66.
Oh yeah, we can do the whole IMDb, but I'm just giving a little context for people born this century, maybe.
But the film buffs will know him from his many collaborations with John Cassavetes and Peter Falk and that group of great 70s actors and stuff. So,
hey, I see we're already getting questions. Ask some questions. You want to do Q&A?
Okay, yeah, we can do questions right off the bat. We are everybody. Yeah, we are going to talk about Brian's new Dark Horse book, Fortune and Glory, Volume 2, the musical, which is very funny. But for now, let's get into it here. Hold on, man. My mouse is very hot. Hold on a minute. Let's
Your
start.
mouse is hot.
Well, every time I what I think is going to be a new. I'm just like scrolling over it, but all of a sudden it's clicking on these questions. But we're fine.
Okay.
All right, here we come on. Get on there. Jeez, I don't know why it's doing that. All right, here. Jeez, man, it's persnickety. Stand by. Hold on a minute. There we go. Dennis Hoffman. East Coaster who will listen tomorrow on the way to work, because it's 1 a.m. or whatever East Coast time.
We're late nighting it. I know, it's best I can.
That's all right. No, it's good for me too. Yeah. Brian, loved hearing you on Blank Check. What a wonderful episode. Also, Masterpiece is simply a masterpiece. Absolutely love that book. I agree with that. Tell me about what podcast is Blank Check?
Well, Blank Check is a movie podcast that I absolutely adore. It is one of my favorite podcasts in the universe, and they were a big anchor for me during the pandemic, just like healthy brain space. And so I've just fallen in love with them. And so Griffin Newman, who is one of the hosts of the show, is also one of the hosts of the George Lucas Talk Show. Spoilers, he plays Watto on the George Lucas Talk Show.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah, it's very funny. And so last year, Matt Kelly and I did the George Lucas Talk Show when they came to Portland. That in itself was a great experience. This is literally my just my perfect comedy lane. This is exactly where I love to be. It's all birthed out of Chris Gethart's show from 10 years ago. I love it so much. And so to be included even for a night with that energy is so much fun. Sure. And then so at the George Lucas Talk Show, the premise is that Connor Radcliffe, the actor, is playing retired filmmaker George Lucas, who has decided now to be a talk show host. Like, that is what he wants to do for the rest of his career. And there's no like breaking the reality of it. He's George Lucas. That's who you're talking to. And,
fantastic.
And that's like the only rule is you're talking to George Lucas. That's it. I couldn't wait. I can't, because we were in town. I could bring all my shit around the apartment. So I brought I have my fertility idol, and Matt last year had bought me the Grail Diary, like the Sean Connery Grail Diary, with all the pieces, and it's got hundreds and hundreds of pieces to it. It was a great present, but it's one of those presents you just have on the shelf. It doesn't serve a purpose.
Is
that I get to bring it to the George Lucas talk show, and George Lucas pulled it apart and was really, he'd never seen one before, and he really enjoyed it, and we had a great time.
Is that made by the guys? There's a guy that makes book artifacts that like are prop replicas.
I don't know. I know that. Look that up.
I know that for Johnny Depp's Ninth Gate movie, the book that he was reading from, you could buy that. This is like 10 or 15 years ago on Etsy. The guy had an Etsy store.
No, I think this is more commercial. I think they made, like, listen, a Ninth Gate replica. I think the audience for that might be a slightly lesser than.
I know. I realize.
But anyway, so so we did the George Lucas talk show, had a blast. It's on YouTube. You guys can watch it, and you can see me. Everyone else does that show. They lean on Star Wars because Watto's right there. It just takes a big Star Wars turn. I thought there's a lot more room to have some Indiana Jones conversation. And one of my big things in my life that I'm always blown away by, and I talk about on the podcast, is that in the Raiders of the Lost Ark story conference that you can read online, that includes George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Lawrence Kasdan breaking story on Raiders of the Lost Ark, you can hear how much George Lucas had it on. He really created this. He brought all the big pieces to the table. So I wanted to talk about that with fake George Lucas, and we had the greatest time. And then I got a call from Griffin to be part of Blank Check, and he said, "Hey, we're doing early Spielberg," and they offered me Raiders. And for fans of the Blank Check space, to be offered a movie of that caliber was an honor. So I prepared as if I had been preparing since 1980 for this thing. But also, what's cool is they're just about a generation younger than us. They're in their 30s and 40s. So they often on their podcast talk about the theater experiences they missed, like seeing Star Wars in the theater or Indiana Jones. And I'm like, oh, I did. I was there. Sure. And did have like profound experiences that don't exist anymore.
100%.
Like even trying to remember, like, how did I even know who Steven Spielberg was? I knew who he was at 10. Like, I knew the story of Steven Spielberg when Close Encounters was coming out. I was 10 years old. I knew it like I knew my own story, right?
Interesting. Okay.
So to talk about that and unpack it and realizing I have no identity creatively without Steven Spielberg in it. Like he's been in my life my whole life. It's just part of my life. It's right, so how
Sure.
Interesting that was. So we just had the best time. I had the highest hopes for the experience. I know I'm plugging another podcast on your podcast. Is terrible.
I have no problem with that.
But as I told you, all the hours of time we've done here makes me a better podcast guest on on these shows that don't know me. So the word balloon DNA was there for sure.
Right. Honestly, I was pretty sure I'm going to give you a comment. Really, 30 years of radio broadcasting in Chicago, and no, we could do a show easily. We could do a radio show, and again, that's why I'm always happy when you're back and that you refer to the Bendis Tapes as our show, and it is our show when you're on, and it means a lot.
It's your show that I'm bullying my way into, but
no, that's good. That's good, man. No, I love it. So
anyway, so the podcast usually goes about a couple hours. There's been historically over the years, they go to 3 hours, they go to 3.5. Famously, Paul Scheer and Jason Mantzoukas did an over 4 hour podcast for the movie Last Action Hero. It is a great podcast episode. If anyone's just in the mood for that nonsense,
I absolutely would listen to that.
It was so. As we were recording and I saw the 3 hour mark go by and we weren't even done, I was like, oh shit, am I going to hit the record? And we went to 3.5 hours, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm just happy to exist. You know how there's just certain episodes you're like, I'm glad that was recorded. Like, I'm happy to have a recording of my feelings on this. So this, and then last year, unrelated, I got to do an episode of The Spiel, which is the Spielberg podcast from the guys who do the King cast. And we covered 1941, which is obviously the polar opposite of Raiders on many, many things. But between the two conversations, that's like 5 hours of like Spielberg diving that I'm very happy exists in podcast form.
That's amazing. You know, I had Tim Matheson on Word Balloon, and he didn't want to record video because he looked schleppy and everything. And I'm like, it's fine, man. We'll just do audio. But we recorded the video of Skype. I wish I kept it, because when I brought up 1941, he went. I'm like, Tim, let me explain something to you. You are great, and there are great scenes with you in that movie, and there are a lot of great scenes in that movie.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Does it come together? No, you know.
Well, listen, his character is literally trying to have sex with Nancy Allen in an airplane the entire movie. That's his arc of character. Yeah. There's nothing else there.
That's true.
But I will say, interesting, because of all the preparation for the Raiders podcast, and I'll be posting it online tomorrow. The original behind-the-scenes documentary that aired on CBS during Indiana Jones's first run in theaters shows Magnum PI's audition and Tim Matheson's audition. And
I didn't know Tim auditioned for Raiders. That's
well,
amazing.
what's interesting is you've heard famously that it was Magnum PI's gig and he lost it.
Right.
But when you watch all the auditions, Tim Matheson is way closer to what you think of as Indiana Jones than Tom Selleck would have brought. So it's him and Sean Young auditioning together, and it's like, oh, that movie wouldn't have sucked. I don't know if it would have been Raiders, but it certainly wouldn't have been embarrassing, you know.
Comments about what we're talking about right now.
Sure.
Zach says, I heard stories and learned things about the indie movies that I'd never heard before from that podcast. Also, Mike Plavin says, same. Star Wars was my first movie in the theater, and I remember seeing Raiders with my dad in the theater on a trip to Seattle. I had a migraine afterwards, but the experience was worth it. And he also says that he's happy to see other Jinxworld Discord people on here. I am too. Thank you, guys.
Yes, the Jinxworld people are people who are part of the website, and we're all refugees from the Substack newsletter, and we have a Discord that anyone can be part of. Just join it at jinxworld.com. It is overall very creators on a journey friendly, like everyone's working on a project and really supporting each other in a way that literally warms my heart every day. Like it takes all of my energy not to everyday post, you guys are awesome, because it just really makes me happy how supportive they are of each other. It is what the world needs, artists supporting artists. So it's one of the thousands of things the world needs, but that's one of them. So.
That's excellent. I'm going to get to more comments in just a second.
And I'm glad they're here, because I owe them a class or two. And if they have questions and things we want to talk about, we can do it here too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Folks, everything is on the table.
Everything.
And that's why I threw up that, if you want to talk about old DC stuff, you want to talk about Marvel stuff, which obviously will dovetail into our talk about the new book. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. We got good stuff.
Anyway, I just want to say though, Blank Check does have a large audience, and the response to the episode has been wonderful. And I just want to thank everybody. It was great to prepare for. It was great to do, and the fallout afterwards has been equally great. And I just loved it, top to bottom. It was a lot like when I got to do Seth Meyers. It was just like, oh, I really hope this is fun, and it was like more fun than I'd hoped for. So
that's awesome. Yeah, Mateo wants to know: there's a Jinxworld Discord.
So go to jinxworld.com. We have been recording classes over the last couple of years. We have dozens of them now, starring some of your favorite creators who and each class is divvied up by subject as well. So if there's just certain things you want to learn about, or certain things you want to focus on in your career, or people you want to hear from that have a different perspective than mine, come listen to we have classes and you can watch it, you can listen to it, you can read it. And and I've been also recording all the panels that I've been doing, which I should have done 20 fucking years ago. Is these amazing experiences that we're in, and I've been recording them and posting them. Just this week, Brianna Lowenson, who wrote and drew the new graphic novel Raised by Ghosts from Fantagraphics, you should have her on. Incredible book, incredible experience. So happy I did it. Good friends with Jin Yang, and just a wonderful graphic novelist. And I recorded that conversation, which I'll be posting for the Jinxworld Discord this week. So and I recorded our panels from the Miami Book Fair with Nate Powell and all kinds of cool stuff. So, and all year long we'll be just posting. Also, on top of the classes, you get a free copy of Jinxworld, the free copy of Fortune and Glory, the musical, in digital form. The people who were subscribed to the newsletter were literally kickstartering this book into existence, and it's doubly why I'm so happy it exists and how warm everyone's been about it this week. It was just an incredible experience. So on top of all that, and also there's the Discord, which is where we all go to support and help each other as we go. But there's a lot of classes and other kinds of material that will be posted on Jinxworld, particularly because on top of it being the 25th anniversary of the first Fortune Glory, it's also the 25th anniversary of Powers. And we have very, very big plans. Mike Oming and myself are hunkered down, creating something brand new for the experience, and we'll be announcing it through Dark Horse very soon. But it's a good one. It's so good. Did I send you that one piece of art? I think I did. You did. Secret piece of art that I cannot. Oh, I can't wait to share. So, Dark Horse, so that's the only reason I'm not doing it tonight. So
Mike points out the classes have been recorded and are saved to a private YouTube channel too, so you won't miss anything. If you join now, it's super worth it, sincerely. And there you go. And Matt says, I'll do it. Or Mateo, excuse me.
Yeah, again, if that's your vibe and that's what you hang out, it's just we were recording so many at one point that people were needed to catch up. So now we have them there. They're all archived, and some of them are free too. Some of them are just available. So if you want to take a peek and see if it's your vibe, check out. I think like David Mack is free. I think there's a few free ones just to enjoy it. Or something happened on the class that I thought I just would like to share this with everybody.
James, I think I hope you're still with us, because he's asking what classes one could take on writing comics and what's the best writing software. Love your Words for Pictures book.
Thanks for buying Words for Pictures. A lot of what I would say to you about all of this is in Words for Pictures, including introducing you to a lot of my friends who are all awesome but have different perspective than me. I think the best thing you can do as a writer, on top of reading everything you can get your hands on, is to listen or to learn from as many different people as you possibly can. There's so many different ways to be successful or to make mistakes in the creative field that I think variety is the way to go. I mean, there are people whose work I follow and whose advice I take very seriously. And there's also people who I don't agree with or I don't vibe with, that I also listen to them to think about why I don't. Like, why does this not hit me the way it hits other people or something like that? So our class at Jinxworld is a reflection of that. Here's everything I know, here's everything my friends know, and here's what we know so far. But the best thing you can do for yourself is a lot of reading and a lot of writing in equal parts. Some people forget the reading part, but I think reading, as you see, some people have said online, like reading good stuff is great, but also read some crap, read some junk, read some stuff that you think isn't like all that, and then find out that you might love it more than things that people think are all that. Or you can learn a lot from a bad book. Like, I've learned more from a bad comic book than I have, breaking it apart and figuring out, oh, that's what it looks like when you do that. I give that to a lot of people as well. But yeah, there's class. What the great news is, versus when I was coming up, I know this is how I old man, but like, it was really hard to find information about how to do any of this stuff when we were coming up. literally Comic Scene magazine and a couple like Comic Buyer's Guide articles if we were lucky. A lot of creators. Say it again.
Amazing Heroes.
Amazing Heroes. Again, that's even later. That's even
okay.
Yeah. But sure. I was actually published in Amazing Heroes a couple of times. But
yes, you were. I saw your Superboy art. I remember.
So when international mail tracing.
Come on, you were a kid. Anyway, it's all right. It was good.
I know, but you gotta start somewhere. But anyway, so but now there are and I'm online all the time watching YouTube videos of writers and artists and letterers and colorists, and I'm like teaching myself how to color with new tools that I've never used before. It's all there. So they like anything you're looking for, you can find information about. Like, and that includes learning how to play guitar. I mean, not like I have to tell you this, but it really is. People kind of take it for granted. It's all out there. So dive in. Man, there's like hundreds of hours of Scott McCloud online. There's just incredible amounts of material that you can dive into.
I quite agree.
Don't just watch a bunch of YouTube clips.
Then you got to do the work. I agree with JJ Mack. I was going to bring him up and say Jim Zub is an incredible source for comic writing. The guy who's been doing Conan the last couple of years and doing a hell of a job. One of the great Canadians in the business. So
along with my wife, yes. I agree.
I didn't know she was Canadian. That's awesome.
Oh, hell yeah.
I didn't know. I remember Alan Moore said the same thing about reading crap in his BBC that special.
Many people have said it, but yeah, Alan Moore absolutely said it. There was something magical about hearing Alan Moore say it, because like you couldn't imagine like Alan Moore like just reading a shitty book. Right? Like just like reading like some kind of like, Fabian covered romance novel. And
Chaikin would always talk about the crap that influenced him and stuff too.
But see, I could see Chaikin reading crap. Like,
I agree.
I'm not in a derogatory way. You could see he likes it gritty, where Alan Moore is like living in a tree, talking to Merle.
With the other Keebler elves, absolutely.
Well, I've had a nice kind of revisit with Alan Moore lately. It's just been lovely getting into some of his later stuff.
That's cool.
Stuff that I just didn't get around to when it first came out. So yeah, it's been nice.
Fascinating.
Please, God, don't do anything stupid in your personal life. I'm sorry.
I know. We keep losing great writers to their personal issues.
So
what are you going to do? Here,
rise to the occasion of your station. Sorry,
please. Yes. Yeah, Dennis also said he really loved your Superman work. You and Ivan, Superman was special. The Steve Epting arc on Action blew me away. Wish we could have gotten more, but glad Jinxworld is the primary or priority. And Mateo says, I'm also a big fan. I just wanted to include
thanks, guys.
Also a big fan of the Superman run. A lot of people discovering it and enjoying it recently, too. I'm glad because it's a great run. Feel free, Superman.
No, I one of the great honors of my life, we've talked about it here on the pod, coming to DC Comics wasn't the plan originally. I was literally going to do what I'm doing right now when I left Marvel. And then DC came with this offer to do it. And I'm a little Jewish boy from Cleveland, and getting a chance to write Superman was just an honor beyond measure to me. Also, I was even thinking about how like I was literally living like all of my heroes went from Marvel to DC when I was in high school, like Simonson and Perez and Byrne, they all and Frank Miller, they all jumped over. So in my creative DNA, there's something that says, oh, that's what you do. You then you set yourself up and then move over to the other company. Even though I wasn't thinking about it during my time at Marvel, but then I realized I jumped at it because, I've been activated to that part of my career. I am so grateful to have written that book. I got to write it from one of the darkest places of my life. I had just recovered from something terrible, all the way into the darkest days of the pandemic. And I literally don't know what I would have done emotionally without Superman to just power through. Like I have to spend a portion of my day thinking nothing but what would the greatest guy do. Like it's like you have to like there's that line Mamet had in the movie Heist where Gene Hackman said like, how'd you come up with that plan? And he goes, I thought of a smart person. I thought, what would he do? Right. And that's like it. So it was like that with me with Superman. It was just like I was being forced into a healthier headspace, and I'm deeply grateful for it. I don't know if I can look at it now. I don't know if I could like look at it myself, other than what Ivan and Steve have done is so stunning. I did make a kind of goal for myself, and I did say this to you, like I will not put out a bad looking page at DC. Like every page is going to be beautiful, physically beautiful to look at, and I think we accomplished that. These are beautiful runs. Everyone did killer work. I'm just so proud of it. So I thank you. I'm so glad it's there. I'm so glad to be part of the Superman experience, and I hope the movie is great.
I was so happy to see Crypto, and I adore Crypto. And I mean, our first dog, it was my sister's dog, technically 5 years older than me, and I'm like, Crypto, let's name him Crypto. Come on. It was a little Cocker Spaniel. No, she wouldn't let. She's like, let's name him Whiskers, and I'm like, all right. But thankfully, go ahead.
Mine was Bandit from Johnny Quest.
Oh, that's fantastic. But
Bandit is the greatest dog name. It is a great dog.
and it would like the greatest animated dog. No offense, Scooby Doo, but he is. And then but Whiskers was really fast, so I called him Whisk. And he would respond to Whisk. So yeah, I'm like, all right, he's a fast dog. I can live with Whisk. That's all right. But absolutely, and that's and so toyetic. The design for Crypto for the new movie, is going to be a plushie. And right there with your Rocket Raccoons and your Groots and everything, and it's
the guy who invented Baby Groot had definitely had some thoughts here.
So, and I do want to talk, and I promise everybody I will get back to even more questions. But sure. A slight aside while we're talking about toys and in Fortune and Glory the musical, it really opens with Avi Arad letting you know, hey, you want to work with Julie Taymor and do the story portion of Spider-Man Turn Off the Lights or Turn Off the Dark or whatever the fuck it was called. I don't remember. And Franco always used to call it Turn Off the Dark, bring in Defunk. And of course, Defunk, because you have to say it that way. But
I have a sequence in the graphic novel where I give serious consideration to the meaning of the title of the play. And I forgot I wrote it. And when I came back to it, I was like, it's a weird thing where you go, oh, I'm glad I did this. Like I forgot I had done it. Yeah. So,
but Avi came from the toy business when he took over Marvel.
Literally Toy Biz.
There you go. Yeah, toy. You're right. Shame on me. Of course, Toy Biz. So the book starts in 2004, so 21 years ago, and you had been at Marvel for a couple of years by then. But tell me about Avi, and because we talked before about Gemma's to a degree, Casada to a degree. How much did Avi have to do with day-to-day Marvel?
He was in my life a lot back then. I can only do from my perspective. Everyone had different deals. And I like everything that happened in that first 7 years, like the pre-Disney period was just crazy. Some of it we talked about here live while it was happening. I walked into the company just as they were coming out of bankruptcy, literally as they were walking themselves out of financial ruin into a new state, right? And the new state was the beginning of a new company. Not unlike kind of what DC is right now. Like they're the post Dan DiDio situation is like there's a new structure, right? So the same thing was happening. These companies remain, but what's going on behind the scenes would be considered these are new people in charge with a new mandate, with a new identity. Like everything about it is new except for the widget is Spider-Man, right? So a lot of this I am Forrest Gumping through. I'm just walking around with my mouth hanging open going, wow, look at that. I can't believe I'm here. So a lot of it is me considering it after the fact. But they're like, hey, we're going to do this. And they're making a Spider-Man movie. You should go over here or go over. Oh, now we're making video games. Go over here. And all this was new to them as well. So Avi was coming from the toy situation to maneuvering it into being the producer of these major motion pictures, and it was all building around all of us at the same time, around him more than everyone, because him and Ike were in charge at one point. They were partners at one point, and then that altered. None of that I was aware of or part of, but so Avi was in charge, and then so there was a Spider-Man TV show. They called me for that, and then
MTV
there was
show. Yeah,
there was the MTV animated show, which I'm sure looks like stick figures now, but it was the best they could do at the time, and
sure.
it was a good experience behind the scenes.
Ian Ziering and Lisa Loeb, am I right?
Yeah, so they like this is every day is like here. So go over here. Neil Patrick Harris is Peter Parker. Like this is like,
I forgot Neil. Yeah,
Neil Patrick Harris is Peter Parker. Lisa Loeb is Mary Jane. Sharknado is Harry Osborn.
Is that Ian?
And I wrote the pilot. I just posted a picture of it. I found the pilot. I wrote the pilot. It was immersed in all kinds of early 2000s Sony Marvel situations where no one was allowed to use any of the existing villains unless they had already appeared previously in the movies. So we had to like come up with new villains, but no one told us until we'd already started writing. It was like all kinds of stuff like that. And so that's why there's a lot of like weird, like one-off villains in that Spider-Man show. They were at one point it was supposed to be Black Cat, and then all of a sudden it's Purple Whiskers, or like it's like a. And at one point I wrote something like this looks more like a carnival knockoff of Spider-Man than it does Spider-Man, and it's actually Spider-Man. So Avi would be there for that. Avi would like what was going on with Sam Raimi in the movies. I would get called in, and then it was just part of a conversation that led me into the room for Iron Man, which then led to the creative committee. Yeah, so he was just like there, and every once in a while he'd call up with something crazy, like, "Hey, Julie Taymor, Broadway play," and I just have to say yes to everything that would be offered, no matter how crazy it was, because eventually I knew enough about show business. Eventually they will stop asking. So say yes to everything and see what happens. And there was a couple things I wouldn't know that is not for me, but these these experiences were weird and crazy. And I grew up with old Israelis, so I just I knew the language, and that was it.
That's great, man. And truly, I'm really fascinated by that early Marvel Avi period, because he like a lot of doors suddenly opened, like you said, coming out of bankruptcy. God, all those great animated shows that were on Fox, like the Silver Surfer cartoon, for example.
Yeah, and also like Mutant X. He had a show called Mutant X. There was like it's a fitful time of trying things out, and some things were ahead of the curve, and some things were behind the curve, some things were right on the money. It's just a genuinely fascinating time, including the Fantastic. I mean, I remember being in meetings for the early Fantastic Four meeting, where I'm not in the meeting, I'm just there as they're having a meeting, but listening to what they're saying and what the plans are and seeing what lands. I remember like being in a meeting for the Daredevil movie. I read an early draft of the Daredevil script that was far superior, like the Ben Affleck Daredevil.
Yeah, that
was far superior to what actually ended up being filmed.
That director's cut is a much better movie with the Coolio subplot put back in. Yeah, well, I know. Well, how often can you say that? Really, let's be honest. That's like when Shabba-Doo did.
No, I love words you never hear together, just used casually. Coolio subplot. Yeah. Anyway, so so like it was. I'm just describing it was all vague and really interesting, and like, sure, why not? And then every meeting was not what I thought it was going to be. It was a lot of times mostly for the good. It was always like, oh, this is why we're here. And yeah, it was a lot of that, to the point where I sometimes worry about me. Like, why do I walk into rooms not always knowing what's happening? Or I definitely think I have a feeling. And I was always sitting next to Joe for most of it. Like Joe was always there. So it was never like me just sitting there going, what the fuck? It was like me with a friend going, which is a very different experience. Joe and I had an enormous amount of crazy shit happen to us that was just me and him, and it just happened to be, and we now can look back on it so fondly, including like that story I told you about how we went to Howard Stern's house one day. It was just me and him. Yeah, no one will ever know what that was. It was just me and him. It was craziest day. So
that's awesome. Couple comments about
just for those just joining us. If any of this sounds braggy, it's not where my head is at. This is not bragging. It's just here's some weird shit that happened to me, and you guys like to hear about this stuff. but no, that none of it's coming from I have finally outgrown bragging. But I do have this cool shit, and if I was listening to a show about like this, I would want to hear about it. So.
We want the stories. Don't kid yourself.
Okay, I'm just letting people know there's such a fine line.
All right, a couple questions regarding Wicked and other Oscar movies. While we're on musicals, curious, Bendis, if you saw Wicked, do you ever want to ask if? Do I even want to ask if you saw Emilia Perez? Still dumbfounded by how many Oscar nominations it got. So how about those movies?
I didn't. I've seen a lot of Oscar movies. I didn't see Wicked. I saw like a bit of it. My kids were watching it, but I just wasn't in the mood when it aired. And maybe I will one day. I'm not like against it. It's not my natural lane. And there's so much stuff to watch lately. I really was surprised how much I liked the Bob Dylan movie. Like, I have seen 7 Bob Dylan movies in my life. I have read 10 Bob Dylan books. I have bathed in the glorious misunderstandings and complications that are Bob Dylan for a lot of my life. I didn't think the movie would offer me something different, and it did, and I'm really celebratory of it. It was really good. Like, it really surprised me around all the edges and the details, and it's the best thing Ed Norton's ever done by a mile. Like, he's cool. Incredible in it. Yeah. So that was the biggest surprise for me. Like, I think I'll give this 10 minutes, and I was like, wow, I'm riveted. It's great.
Gabe Hardman, our dear friend, Hollywood storyboard artist extraordinaire, worked on Complete Unknown.
I did not know that. I'm a big fan of his. That's very cool to hear.
Yeah, he's got a really good relationship with Mangold. He did Ford versus Ferrari with him. He did Dial of Destiny with him, and speaking of Indiana Jones, and sure. So also, all right, and regarding, I'm curious about how you feel, because I got to be honest, right? The last few years, because also Emilia Perez, but
I haven't seen that one, by the way.
Okay, I haven't either, and I'll be honest, man. Since COVID, there was only one, and actually, I think it was the year before COVID. But whenever Ford versus Ferrari and Jojo Rabbit, that was like the last really great Oscar year where I'm like, I like these movies. They've all been nominated for films. And listen, I get it. I'm out of the demographic. They're not trying to cater to me. But there are so many what I would call vegetable movies that get nominated for Oscars that are good for you and have good messages. But it's, I can't eat broccoli at every meal. I got and I'm not saying that Fast and Furious should be nominated for Best Picture, but I do miss the days when more mainstream films were also getting Oscar. And there's a couple right now.
There's always a couple, but to even harken back to the Blank Check episode where we discussed at great length how Spielberg was not nominated for Jaws, which is incredible, right?
Agreed.
The Raiders of the Lost Ark did not win Best Picture. What did win Best Picture?
81?
Yes.
I don't remember. Tell me.
See, that alone. What?
Gandhi?
No, it was the bicycle movie.
Breaking Away. Sure,
Breaking Away. Yeah, which was a cultural moment for sure.
Absolutely, and a nice feel-good family comedy movie.
Yeah, I was there. That the shit was everywhere. But
Paul Dooley was awesome in that movie. Yeah,
but I'm just saying that there's always been this, the Academy's inability to look, the high art, low art of Hollywood has always wrestled with each other, no matter how. Like, Star Wars was clearly the best picture of 1977.
It was nominated but didn't win. Yeah, Annie Hall.
It's incredible that here. Well, one of these movies changed cinema. Which one gets to win the award?
And one of the few times it did happen was with the Lord of the Rings movies.
And also the third one, they gave it to him at the end of the trilogy. All right, you did it.
Yeah, but all three, those movies and all the CGI and everything that we now take for granted was groundbreaking and changing the way movies were made, for better or for worse.
I'm just saying there's always been this fitful relationship at the Oscars between these things. And yes, over the years, and there's also this weird thing going on where, like, we grew up, there was this pageantry of the Oscars that was like, no one argued about and undeniable, and it was Hollywood like patting themselves on the back and all of us going like this. Something about social media over the years and the full access to all of these things makes people not as celebratory over in this space, they celebrate it in different ways. But like, as far as everyone giving each other trophies, people are into it, but it doesn't have the same, like, everyone stop what you're doing, the Oscars are on feeling.
Yeah.
And some of it has to do with the movies that they pick being disconnected from the movies that the audience is really celebrating, right? We're going to have a talk about why Barbie didn't win Best Picture in 10 years, right? So they're still handing out the awards as if it's 50 years ago, but literally everything about the culture and the art form and how people take in the art form has changed. I have in my garage, because I'm in the Writers Guild, I get the screeners. Like they send you copies. Now they do it mostly digitally, but over the last 20 years, you get digital. I am incapable of throwing out a DVD of a good movie. It's like I cannot do it. I cannot, and you can't like sell them. They're literally in a folder. They're not like the commercial versions of them, So I was unpacking a box of these Oscar screeners from years past, mostly movies and movies that had a huge Oscar campaign that have all but disappeared from the culture. You don't hear about them. You don't hear, and some of it has to do with like the Weinsteins just pushing something up a hill, regardless of the audience's interest in it or not. Some of that was that. Some of they were just trying to create a moment for themselves, and the audience said no, thank you. But a lot of it is like smoke and mirrors and hype, paid for hype, that sometimes the audience jumps in on, and sometimes the audience just indifferently rejects. And then you have like there's this movie. I don't mean to shit on it. It's not a bad movie, but it was a movie with my wife did this to me earlier today. I promise I would never do anybody, but it stars Dennis Quaid, and Topher Grace, and it's a workplace comedy that was being a good something. Someone posted, you'll have it there, right there. And
someone at the channel, remember. But
I was given 6 copies of this screener for Oscars. And you look at it now and go, you guys thought you had a chance in hell? But they spend millions of dollars to try to convince people this was Michael Clayton,
I hear you. Well, but then again, like you were saying earlier, just a few seconds ago, and I don't remember the full title, but that 3 billboards from wherever the hell. That's
a really good movie, though.
It is a great movie, but where the fuck is it streaming? I don't think it's streaming anywhere. And it's like, this is a Best Picture, for God's sake.
Oh, that's interesting, too. There are whole directors in Good Company. Thank you. I have. Talmor, I'm going to send you my copy of In Good Company as a thank you gift. Anyway, so.
For what it's worth. But no, isn't it interesting that some of the winners for Best Picture, it's like, I remember that. I'd like to see that. Well, you can't. It's not playing anywhere. It's like Nomadland won Best Picture 2 years ago. God, I didn't even remember.
Yeah, or like 4 years
ago. Nomadland?
No Man's Land with
No Man's Land.
Yeah. And again, not bad movies. I'm not shitting on them. It's just you're to equate the Oscar with a cultural moment that encapsulates the whole year. It's not. That's not whatever. It's not. It used to be that more often, and it's just not now.
All right. Corrections on Oscar winners. Breaking Away was 79.
Kramer versus Kramer. You're absolutely right.
81 winner was Chariots of Fire, the running movie, which
that's what I meant. Chariots of Fire, not Breaking Away. I apologize.
I love, and I'll admit, I do love Chariots of Fire. It is a movie. But
very British movie.
E.T. lost to Gandhi in 82. All right, so I was close. All right, not that far.
Thank you, David. You're absolutely correct. I was equating Breaking Away with Chariots of Fire. I meant Chariots of Fire. 100%.
Fine film. Ben Cross. One of Ben Cross.
These are all movies I grew up with. These were huge things, and that's why I think about like how big they were and how like you never hear about them versus other things you hear about all the time, and not just genre stuff. Just some movies that make it and don't. It's also interesting to me that like Escape from New York has a bigger footprint than the #1 movie of that year. You know what I mean? Like, or Fight Club, 1999 being like this classic cinema year, right? And like people like go Fight Club and like, Fight Club, not a hit, did not win at the box office. So it's just like these things like their life is more than just their moment. Yeah, it's just so interesting to me. And to take it to comics as well, it's interesting which comics that happens to. Like which comics like and sometimes it's who owns it and who keeps it in print, and sometimes it's people finding it, discovering it. Happens to me and my friends all the time. You know,
when Dotson and Fraction were doing Defenders, and it was a great comic, but didn't find an audience, and it's like, all right, we're done. See you later.
But they are working on a comic right now called Adventure Man,
well
which is for both of them a high watermark, which is quite a high watermark. And I just reread the first volume recently because they were all in town for a Powell's event. I wanted to be fresh faced, and
that's great.
I just fucking loved it. I loved it so much. I know he's my pal and blah blah blah, but Terry is a really fascinating comic book artist to me, and watching them together, there's something about like the shape of Matt's words and the swirl of the Dotson's art that is just, there's just like a wave to it that is unlike any other comic. Like you look at him working with Elsa on November, but you look at him working with, and that's like perfectly written for each other. But then there's just like this motion with Adventure Man. I just love it. You haven't read it yet. It's an all ages book too. You can really just enjoy it.
Yeah, I've had both of them on to talk about the Adventure Man series, and the two A-list artists that I've gotten to know in the last few years and have become regulars are Terry Dodson and Brian Hitch, and it is so great on both cases because I've really gotten to know them well. And in fact, I convinced Terry Dodson to come to Terrificon last summer, and he had such a great time, and I was so relieved. And I mean, I've told you and I've told everyone, and everyone knows, Mitch and Terrificon are fine sponsors of Word Balloon, and
I will be at Terrificon. They've been
this year.
Well, it's just a matter of parenting weekends. I get these cool offers, and it's just I'm of an age now where I just know. Also, my kids are at an age where there's only a few years left of this. So I should just be present to everything. But
I get it.
Like we got invited to Dragon Con. I'm dying to go back to Dragon Con, but it's the first week of school. It's like here in Portland. It's so frustrating. High class problem. It's just when people ask like why I don't do more shows, it's 90% of the time it's parenting schedule.
Absolutely. Well, back to the book as people ask new questions. And again, everybody, it's Fortune and Glory the musical. And that's great. I assume Dark Horse has put out the first volume as well again.
Yes,
correct?
No. So both Dark Horse has the entire library of Jinxworld, all going back all the way to the earliest Caliber days, in print right now, which I'm very, very happy about. So there are right now matching the Fortune Glory and Fortune Glory the musical in matching editions, designed by the amazing Dark Horse team and edited by Daniel Shaban, who edits everything I do over there with such care, such love and care. It's so lovely. It's like exactly what I need in my life. Just like, just such an amazing partner. And
I should ask you to get me in touch with Daniel. I'd love to have him.
You should have him on. He comes to teach, like he comes, and we have for those who want to, he also did a class at Jinxworld, but he's taught a class with me, and it is the most popular, like for people who want to know like what do editors do if you're a writer, what happens if I submit something. He gave a class for us that we have on Jinxworld that is just incredible. He got like applause from our class this semester. It was like, they were so happy to have the information that he was offering. But so both books are out. They're 25 years apart. They're designed to be partners with each other. I will say Fortune Glory the musical is different because I was doling it out in newsletters over the last couple of years, so people have been taking it in on like 8-page little moments, and I've been getting feedback to keep going the whole time. Having the book out in one book, which is the way most people actually want to read books, is in books. I can't say this enough. I'm so grateful people bought this book, and they really came out and supported it last week, and I was just so moved because all I can think about is a long time since the last one, and the people really wanted to hear the story, and then I was so happy that people really took in. It's one of those books that it says it's one thing, but it really is another. It says it's about the Spider-Man musical, which it is, but it's really a love letter to comics. And I love books like that way that pleasantly surprise me, and then all of a sudden I was, but also there are books that no, I wanted to hear about Spider-Man. Why are you telling me about growing up in the 80s? So I was so happy that people responded so warmly to the experience. And I just wanted to share it with a lot. We have a lot of writers on the call here. It's always nerve-wracking to share like autobiography, like this, like you're not hiding behind Peter Parker. It's you. This is me, like telling you a story that happened to me. And it's a lot of like it didn't feel any different than the first time I did it. It's like, oh, I'm like I'm like this close to embarrassed, and everyone says that's where you should be with your writing, but it feels weird. Like, oh, I hope this isn't embarrassing. And so for people to be so warm, it's such a relief. It really it was so immediate, and it really came to a head for me. I'll share it with you because he's a past guest on the show. Tom Brevoort, who I haven't spoken to in a while, immediately, both privately and publicly, wrote something just so warm and loving about it. And I loved it so much because he was fucking there.
Yeah.
And we were standing next to each other, living different lives, but he was there. And I'm always like, am I remembering this correctly? Have I rewritten this into a new reality? Not that I'm lying, but sometimes you can like tweak a story to a point where you've kind of lost the truth of it. And that's always, and then you like draw it, which also abstracts it. Like everything about it is an abstraction. And I wanted to make sure it felt real. And having Tom's thumbs up meant the world to me. I'm like everyone else can have their opinion, but if Tom would have shit on it, it would really, it would have bummed me out.
I'm sorry I don't have the interior photos to share. It's the cover. But
yeah, you can go to my Instagram, or they're up there. I've been posting stuff all week. You can see what we're doing, and it's drawn by Bill Walco.
Yeah, talk about
colored by Wes. And Bill is someone I met years ago. The New York Times asked me to write a comic book obituary for Stan Lee, and they introduced me to Bill. George at the New York Times introduced me to Bill and said, "Bill's a friend. You guys should work together." And we did. And it was wonderful. And then I was like, "Hey, Bill, you want to draw me 7,000 more times?" And he said yes. So, I mean, it was a weird ask of an artist. I mean, he was paid for his time, but it's weird to go, "Would you like to draw this over and over and over and over again?" And I'm glad it was a good experience for all.
Mark, good morning from Scotland. It's a broad, great new Nick to Nick.
Oh, Mark, how you doing?
Yes, excellent, man. I'm glad you're watching. Josh wants
I don't think I've fucked up anyone's schedule in this world more than Mark's. Mark is a member of the Jinxworld, and every time we schedule something, Mark is losing sleep. So anyway.
Interesting.
Dedicated.
Stephen Commander says Bill Walco had the best Teen Titans website for decades. Interesting.
Yeah.
Had no
Bill's
idea.
a really good cartoonist. I'm really, really happy we did this together.
Josh wants to know if you have Apple TV. If you do, did you watch? Of course we did. The Godzilla King Kong show, Monarch, written by Matt Fraction. It's not King Kong.
Yeah, it's not King Kong. It's Hidden Earth. So Josh, Matt's one of my bestest friends on the planet Earth, and it's not only that my friend created the show and made something really special out of the Godzilla space, which sometimes, Godzilla can be Ferris Bueller versus Godzilla, or it could be some high art watching. One of the cool things about doing this for a living and having other friends in the business is that everyone's reaching for something, and a lot of people, and there's a lot of things standing in your way. And my buddy reached really high to make something really special. The 3 timelines was his idea, like the structure of the show being so innovative was his idea. And so once the footage started coming in, I was like, holy shit. Oh, it's so, and you're like relieved, like, oh, my friend worked so hard on this. So, oh, I'm so glad it's good, because like you could like it's Hollywood, and like hundreds of people are involved, and you could do really, really good work, and everyone works really hard, and it just comes out and it's nothing. It just doesn't. It's got no pulse.
Yeah,
right.
Brian, I know someone who worked on Section 31, the Star Trek. At least he worked on it when it was still a TV series. And I know he's a good writer, and thank God he's on something even better now. But yeah, I feel for it. And I felt that way when Kelly Sue told me, as we know, as maybe other listeners may not know, Matt's wife, who also is a good friend of Brian's, and I like to think that the Fractions are good friends of mine, and they,
Absolutely.
and Kel's like, hey, you know what Matt's working on, the Monarch show, the Godzilla thing, and I'm like, oh God, I hope it's good. God, I hope it's good because really, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch it because it's my friend, and and I'm like, oh, thank God it's good. And really, I mean, I had him on twice at the beginning of the show, at the end of the first season, and I'm like, man, it's so good. And it's so, listen, and really everybody, I'm curious, like, thoughts on the legendary Godzilla movies. I don't know, man. I just feel like there's something missing, and it's so surface entertainment, which is fine, but I really want more of a story. And goddamn, Monarch was so intricate, and I really cared about all these people. I think it's the best thing Wyatt Russell's ever done, and the way that they incorporated he and Kirk to play the same character.
Yeah, that was Matt's idea too. Like,
genius,
genius. Yeah.
So,
it's sometimes it can be like overwhelming a little bit. Like I like these friends and I love them and they're really trying hard. And then there's just some days where everyone's just like wailing. Like at the same time, Matt's working on this. Kelly Sue's working on the Vegas show Awakenings, which is another like next level special effects event. Like it's just really, and a lot of us, we all started from really meager, like we just want to make comics. Like we say this all the time to each other. Like I was like, me, Matt, and Greg were all together the other night. And we're like, it was just about comics. And now it's like, the comics is this portal to like all of these other things that you have to try and say yes to. It's incredible. And that's also great, comics in our lifetime just evolved into publishing spaces that didn't exist when we started. Like there's things I'm doing now that I could not have dreamed to do, including like the Phenomena series. I could not have dreamed that because that was not a thing that existed when I was coming up. So it just, all of it is connected to me, and it's I don't know. It's just sometimes it's hard to process what's going on with you, but watching your friend go through it can be very, very appealing, very exciting. We just had it recently with our friend Ed Brubaker. Was in town all summer working on the Criminal TV show. He literally living in the room behind us while he was prepping, and he was just in town this weekend with his wife as part of a festival. And I got a little peek, and it's boy, it's just really exciting to like, and that's another, like Ed's been working on the Criminal TV show existing for 15 years. Yeah. This was not like like this is what he wanted to do, and when you're there's so many ways it could not happen. Like, it's actually wired not to happen more than it's do happen. So when your friend gets it to happen, you can't help but just go, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Well, how many TV and animation things were they developing for you at Warner Brothers? And I don't know if any of them are still alive or not.
At Warner Brothers, no. When I left Warner Brothers, I closed that door.
Okay.
I didn't like many other people. Warner Brothers business affairs isn't my favorit place. But
so Cover, for example, weren't they developing Cover?
All that was great. Cover didn't happen. It was just one of those things, like we got hired to do something, and then by the time we handed it in, the person that hired us was gone. Like that was what was going on at Warner Brothers. I mean, it's all public. It's nothing
classic Hollywood. Yeah.
Like a lot of animators, and we were an animation project as well, but a lot of animators were like, oh, you guys aren't doing animation anymore because you hired us to do all of this stuff. So Cover was a great experience. Behind the scenes, we were working with Rooster Teeth, and David was art directing, and they were so appreciative of what I did. They hired me to do Legion of Superheroes as an animated as well. So we were having a great time. Behind the scenes was great. It just was clear it wasn't going to happen. And it's a bummer because both projects, I worked my little ass off. It's among the best. Cover can still see a light of day. I see a version of it that's live action. Like we were happy to entertain it as animation because that's what was offered to us. But I do see it as more of a hybrid of live action with maybe an animated comic book section to it, or David, the voice of David's artist in that. But so I'm still eager to make that happen, and I hope it can. Legion of Superheroes is out of my hands, and I hope one day someone does something really cool with it. And I'm very grateful that I got to do it. I do see Legion as my most pandemic victim project.
I wondered, yes,
really gearing up just as the darkest days the pandemic hit, like just as we were doing like this 40 artist jam issue of Legion of Superheroes. I worked my ass off, and by the time it came out, there were no stores to sell it in, and again, there was much bigger problems at the time. But like I do hope it gets collected in a better shape one day, because it is Ryan Sook's. It is up there with every great thing he's ever done. Really, really proud of it.
Thoughts mentioning that the issues that we had with pencils down during the pandemic, and Diamond having to temporary close for those 6 weeks.
Yeah, that was really really terrible. Yeah.
Thoughts on the current Diamond situation?
It's weird for me. I've always had a fitful feeling about it. It was a monopoly for a long time. I didn't care for being in a monopoly. It was where I was being distributed, and I was protected by Marvel for most of it. So it didn't really hit me, but there were other creators that were not getting the best out of the situation. Right. So, and I was aware of it, and it was frustrating. At my time at DC, because they were my publishers and they were switching to Lunar or wherever they went, they pulled me aside and said, "Hey, listen, we're shifting the business, which includes we're moving you to this because we don't think Diamond is long for this earth." And so that was like 4 years ago. So I thought this was coming 4 years ago, right? So when it didn't, I'm like, okay, they figured it out, or there's some new business model they can do. But what's been happening in those 4 to 6 to maybe 8 years that this has been going on is the business model of comics has shifted over and over and over again. And the bookstores, and I literally just went into Powell's at downtown Portland, which is a big bookstore, which always had a kick-ass graphic novel section, which they have moved to the Gold Room, which is like primo real estate spot. Like graphic novels are such big business that they moved it where crime used to be, right? You know what I mean? Like,
sure. Yeah.
And Barnes & Noble has done it too. You see their graphic novel and all their nerd stuff is way up front. And it used to be behind the humor section.
Sure. Yeah.
It is an enormous change in how everyone perceives all of this material. And I have been eagerly seeking that space for the last like 5-6 years. Like Dark Horse is part of that space. Abrams is part of that space. My new publisher is part of that space. Like this space is evolving, and I've been heading towards that and away from Diamond literally for years. So I'm frustrated that this hit people so hard, and I wish that more people were more like planning for it, because it was coming. Okay. That's all I can say. I know some people are struggling because of this, and I have friends that are struggling because of this. I think the results will be good overall, and it already kind of is. Like like Penguin Random House is a stronger base of operations than Diamond ever was.
Sure,
it just is. And I can't speak out of school, but Marvel and some other people have already made me aware of some things that I think are excellent moves forward in how things are going to be done. So I'm fingers crossed. It's rough reading about people struggling when there's a hopeful situation on its way, and so for creators entering this space, I think it might be the healthiest it'll have been in a long time in certain regards. And that includes the fact that Webtoons and Kickstarter and all these other ways that people can just do their own thing and not worry about any of this is a great relief, I think, to a lot of creators. Like when we were coming up, either Diamond picked up your book or it didn't, and that was it. And there's no plan B, and there's no other place to go. I used to pick up books at Capital City Comics just as they were being absorbed by Diamond, and so there was, I know some people don't even know what we're talking about, but there used to be 2 distributors, and then there was 1 distributor, and there was a monopoly, but no one called it a monopoly, even though it was a monopoly. And so here we are. So
yeah, no, I agree. And the Lunar people, that's my buddy Christina Merkler from Discount Comic Book Service and In Stock Trades. And no, she was a great vendor and now a great distributor as well. And it's a very interesting world. My buddy Patrick Brower of Challengers Comics here in Chicago gave a very micro look at what's happening with Diamond, and it was a really good episode. And he even said, "Hey, this is my experience. Another store in Chicago might have a completely different experience of how they're handling it and how this impacts them." So
I can't speak enough to my privileged space in all of this. And
sure.
But I'm also very aware of what's going on and have been affected by it. But it's just so if I'm being a little cup half full, it's because it's not like Diamond's falling apart and there's nothing there. It's Diamond's falling apart because something happened to our industry that improved it dramatically for a lot of creators. Like a lot more graphic novels are being produced, a lot more graphic novels are being spotlighted, a lot more voices are being heard. There was Spider-Man and Batman and everything else, and that is not what it is anymore, and it's all for the good. So that's what I'm referring to. And I know there's some creators on here, I can already feel them going, I'm struggling in this right now. I'm like, it's because it's still changing, but it's changing towards something that could be healthy. And again, there's a lot of X factor that we don't control in the governments and the world governments and tariffs and all the other things. But for the most part, there are people in charge that are trying to make this a healthy way to communicate yourself. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I agree with Mateo. Someone should call James Gunn about that Legion show. But expanding on James Gunn in general, did you work with him when he was doing the Guardian stuff?
No, they had sequestered the creative committee. Like I worked on those movies. I had read pre-James Gunn drafts of Guardians. Like there was a draft of Guardians that made them go, should we do this? This is a swing. Like that was so good that made everybody go, is this our Star Wars? I mean, this is before Disney had Star Wars. Like, and that was a lot of fun. Those conversations were a lot of fun. And then when James took over, there were some directors that were like in the room with us. Like Shane Black was in the room with us. Kenneth Branagh was in the room with us. And there were other directors that were either just not interested or not invited. I don't know what was happening, but like I've never been in the room with James Gunn, which is weird. I worked on 2 movies. My name's in the credits of 2 of his movies. Yeah. Okay. I've never met Robert Downey Jr. Worked on 8 of his movies.
That's true. What do you think of, I don't know if you watched Creature Commandos, the Max animated series.
I didn't, but not for any reason.
Man, it is great. And I'm so glad because, there's, and I've said it before on the show, there's a few YouTube trollers that are just there to hate and they don't like anything. And obviously I get hate sells. That's fine. But they made fun of like the first 5 seconds of the first episode of Creature Commandos because they had people on the street spouting very extreme left opinions. And this one guy, once again, James Gunn coming. What's that?
In the cartoon,
they had like a newscast to start, and they had all these like people on the street giving opinions of what was going on, and it was very extreme left and whatever. Meanwhile, the rest of the show could not be more hard R in terms of the sex and the violence.
Oh, really?
And you have strong male characters along with strong female characters, and it is a hard R animated show that gives you kill shots to the head and very violent graphic scenes, amazing comedy, and much like the last Suicide Squad movie and Peacemaker,
right?
Yeah, okay. Because the other one's the Clooney.
No, you're accepting me. I'm not sure which one it is.
I get it. Well, honestly, Kupperberg laughs every time, and he's like, "No, dummy, it's the other one." I'm like, "All right, fine." But Gunn has always put in, as we know from the Guardians movies as well, great music. And
Bobo Bordello did a soundtrack to Creature Commandos?
I didn't know that either. Wow. Okay, Timora, there you go.
Oh, Tama. Okay, good. Thank you, man.
Well, and also beyond, that original music, there's just other great hits in it and everything. It's
the reason I haven't watched it is because we have been overwhelmed with Saturday Night Live documentaries on Peacock that are all better than the next. Literally, there's like 9 hours of documentaries.
I gotta jump back on
They're
Peacock. Yeah,
exceptional. And speaking of the music, I saw the music one that Questlove just put out, 3 hours long. It's an incredible document.
I gotta see it.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Interesting, great choices, spotlighting all the best interesting stuff. stuff that you never thought in a million years they would take a minute on in 2025.
Did they show UB Blake at 100 whatever playing the piano that one time he was on? UB Blake was a fantastic early 30s blues man.
No, they went there. They showed Captain Beefheart tanking. They showed Philip Glass's ensemble. They showed like this is how weird we got back then.
The infamous one of Elvis Costello starting one song and then right in the middle, radio.
No, they spotlight that because Lauren Michaels has a great quote. He goes, "I think we're being hijacked." And like he just like letting them they watch it. But
they were pissed at him for like a decade. He didn't come back for over like 10 years.
Well, they show that he got they pretended like he was never banned. I'm like, no, he was. They just let him back 10 years later.
Yeah, give me a break. Absolutely.
But they also showed one of my favorite things to show you how great the special is. They get into Elvis Costello's journey with SNL, and then they repeated it on the 40th anniversary. The Beastie Boys start playing Sabotage, and then Elvis Costello runs on and goes, no, we're not doing that here. And then started playing Radio with the Beastie Boys as his band.
That's fantastic.
It's a tremendous performance. One of the best in the history of SNL, but because it's on an anniversary, I thought they would skip it, and they didn't. They just said, this is, yeah.
I'm really glad Michael Stratford is watching, who's also a West Coast guy. I just had Michael on, and he said the opening montage to the SNL music doc is unreal.
It's unreal.
Questlove said it took months to pull this montage together. I've never seen anything like it. Michael used to work with Quincy Jones in the 90s for his Quest music label. Brian, I had him on because, and I've even still got the images from when he was on, he made this amazing book, which is all about Steve Holland, who was the original, sorry, everybody, here it is, Doc Savage model for all the great covers that James Mama did in the 60s, moving on through the 80s, that Steve was still, as he was in his 60s, still had the bod to pull it off. And is such a like iconic guy that even Alex Ross had him in the background of this Doc Savage, where the front image for the audio audience is very much a James Banama-esque Doc thing, but there's Steve in the background. Great thing. Cool. And then as he's telling me his story, he's like, oh yeah, I worked with Quincy Jones and we did an album with Ray Charles that really sucked. And he was
Michael,
also...
did we grow up together? He's from Cleveland too.
Oh, that's right. Michael is from Cleveland. Yes, indeed. That's right. Of course he is. Yes. He's only a little bit older than us. We
shoplifted at the same comic store. Anyway, so anyway, that's awesome. But I you know, my kids, a couple of my kids are musicians, and they've been like doing like Green Day and Weezer, like, so they have some literacy in their like classic rock literacy. But to sit my 12-year-old son, who's been literally obsessing over certain bands, and to show them the history of SNL music and filling in like, oh, that's what Queen looked like. He never seen Queen. Like, so like walking, like he never seen David Bowie perform. Like he just never seen it. So the documentary was, what a great parenting moment it was. Oh no, yeah. I go, do you want me to sit here and tell you who everybody is as we go? He goes, yeah. And we just like,
that's great.
Yeah, I just dadded through the whole thing. It was tremendous.
Stanley, I'm going to slightly disagree with you because wish the current SNL cast was good.
Oh yeah, Stanley,
they're having a great season right now, man.
I think Chloe Fineman and Sarah Sherman in particular are world-class talents. I think
agreed.
I don't think I can't believe how good they are. It's incredible. So everyone always like that's part of like the fun of the last couple of weeks, listening to all the SNL cast members talk about the history of stuff. And Amy Poehler said it perfectly, that whoever was on the show when you were 13 is your SNL, and everything else sucks. Right.
Yeah.
That's how everyone feels about it. I've lived with it my whole life. So I love the ups and downs. Like one of the documentaries they put on Peacock was called The Weird Year, the Robert Downey Jr. year, right?
Randy Quaid, Robert Downey Jr., Anthony Michael
Hall. I watched every episode live.
Damon Wayans.
Like, even though you know it's a complete trash car wreck, I was just I love how the show's made. I love the energy of it. I love this weird history. I love I love the trauma it brings to the cast members, that they still some of them still can't get over what happened to them. Yeah, it's just everything about the show. It also makes me feel it's the closest thing in all of the world and all of the show businesses that feels the most like the comic book industry. in that like getting to be at Marvel or DC feels like you get to be on SNL and you stay for a while, you do as much kick-ass shit as you can, and then you move on.
Yep.
And then it's part of your DNA forever. Like you're always associated with that franchise.
Agreed.
Like Will Ferrell has ascended to the biggest movie star of all time. He's still SNL alumni. That's the first 100%. Thing you think of when you think of him. And sometimes when I'm watching cast members talk about the experience, I really feel these emotions feel real to me. I like when Bobby Moynihan talks about SNL, I really feel like I understand where he's coming from emotionally.
This season, that Ariana Grande episode where they do the song Espresso, and they introduced the idea of Domingo. That thing went so viral, and then for them to come back within only a few weeks and do another sketch about Domingo, the character that Marcello plays, and it's like, all right, obviously this is working, and kids are really responding, and that's great.
And also they take it in differently. Like my kids don't watch the show; they watch parts of the show.
Yeah, they'll watch it on YouTube or wherever.
Loves Andy Samberg more than anything in the world. But discovered him from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Like, and I said, you should see his SNL stuff.
Yeah.
And it took him like a year to like figure out, that's better than Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Has he watched Hot Rod, his movie that he made?
Yes, we watched it. Oh, I couldn't wait to show him Hot Rod because also he's 12 and
perfect.
Those stupid jokes are just the first time he's ever heard them before. Like the first time he's ever seen anyone that just fall into a pool. Like just just that dumb scooter. Like every stunt joke was like a murderous laugh out of my son. It was the perfect age for it.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And my nephews were big Andy Samberg Right Away fans, and so we all watched Hot Dog together when they were kids.
For those who don't know, his podcast with Seth Meyers is tremendous. It is a must listen to.
Who's
it's called The Lonely Island and Seth Meyers.
Oh, Andy and Seth.
Andy Samberg. It's The Whole Lonely Island, and Seth Meyers hosted. And every episode they do one digital short and they pull it apart for an hour and a half.
Fun.
And they are self-effacing. They celebrate failure. They talk about what works and what didn't. They rarely give themselves a pat on the back. It is all about craft. It is all about friends having been through something and learning from it. It is a tremendous podcast. I'm stunned how well Andy Samberg is aging. Like his work, his comedy. Like if you would have guessed 20 years ago that he would be like unbelievable. Yeah.
You were expecting another Andy Milonakis sort of career, and it's
or like
another own Andy Milonakis. It's just
he came and went. Like Chris Kattan. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes the loudest person on the show doesn't translate past or age the best, right? And anyway, I'm so SNL headed this week because of
podcasts. Sundays is it Sunday, right? Sunday's the anniversary special.
I'd be shocked if the special is as good as the docs. I
get it.
Imagine the docs.
I get it.
So good, but I'm all in. I'll be there.
That's excellent, and I'm fascinated, and I'm glad that they're finding I think this cast is finding its footing, because I do think last year and the year before they did struggle a lot and missed opportunities.
They had to do a couple of seasons. There's an episode in the documentaries about it. They had to do a couple of seasons in quarantine.
Yes, they did.
Like they weren't even allowed to fuck up their first year.
No, and it was a lot of Zoom like sketches, essentially. And like I remember them making fun of like a Zoom church service, which was very funny. And they managed to figure out ways to do it. No, I agree with you, man. I think there are a lot of really good current performers. And also, man, another guy that it's like, God bless that guy for still being as great as he is. Kenan Thompson, man. Kenan Thompson is so good on that show. And I've heard him in interviews, and they're like, you're still there. And he's like, because it's the perfect place for my comedy. Why would I want to leave? And it's like, God bless you, man. Go.
And he's got new moves. He did new shit this year. He doesn't just do his old shit. He's always got new characters, new ideas.
Absolutely.
Comes in. Also, the reason the Beavis and Butthead sketch that went viral works so hard is that he doesn't break. Like they did the Beavis and Butthead sketch with Ryan.
Yes.
Gosling.
Poor Heidi Gardner. Poor Heidi Gardner. Like
they needed someone not to break for that to be funny, and it's Keenan. So
I am absolutely with you, and truly, it's always been my frustration with Jimmy Fallon, where it's just like, in fact, I loved on Family Guy when they made fun of it, and Peter's just punching him, and like, who the hell do you think you are, Avi Corman? You're not in that period of your career where you can get away with laughing on camera, and it's like, yeah,
so,
that's right.
Amazingly, in the documentaries, one documentary is called The Cowbell Sketch, and it's an hour and a half just about the cowbell sketch. And it is, and then 10 to 15 minutes of it are dedicated to what's Jimmy Fallon's issues.
Well, did you listen during the writer's strike when all the talk hosts?
I loved it so much, and I've listened to it recently because I was listening to it when it was happening, but with that stress of the strike affecting my life directly, I literally was on pause at Amazon during that strike, and it was stressful. But still, oh my God, this podcast is the five of them at their best. It's the funniest version of each of them. They bring out the best in each other. And
much like on Smartless with Sean Hayes, Jimmy was the weak link on the Fox on the Talk Guys. He's the pixie of them. Oh,
you know what I noticed though, because I recently re-listened to it without the stress of the thing, and it's just delightful to listen to. It's called Strike Force 5. There's only 14 episodes. They're all great. They're just fucking around with each other. But by episode 4, Jimmy Kimmel, who is an old school Howard Stern morning zoo radio guy, turned Jimmy Fallon into his whack packer without anyone even noticing it happen.
The Jon Stewart guest star episode is incredible.
The Letterman one is really something.
That's what I was going to say as well. Yeah. The Letterman one is like all the kids at Uncle Dave's feet. Tell us all your stories, Uncle Dave, and they were fantastic. But I love what Stewart said, and he's right, that he's like, most of our humor is like egg salad. If it's in the fridge for more than 3 days, it ain't worth nothing anymore. And it's absolutely true. And again, it was those kinds of observations and just a lot of the fun that they had. Doing it. No, it's a very, very entertaining 14-episode series, and I'm glad it's still up there.
Yeah, we grew up with like Letterman and Arsenio were going to beat the shit out of each other or something in like late night wars. So it's actually kind of magical that they all genuinely seem to really care for each other.
They really do seem to like each other.
Be rooting for each other in a way that I didn't think you could do, and that's awesome. And also, like I also liked it because like there are people in our business that are super competitive and hard to be around because they're just being super competitive. And like, I kind of like surround myself with people who aren't like that. So it was nice to hear them be that way with each other. Cause in Hollywood, it is hard to find.
I hear you, man.
Yeah.
Stephen Commander says, thank you and good evening, John, Brian. Thank you so much for resurrecting Vic Sage. The question. Also, I love the mystery of Leviathan. And though I guessed Mark Shaw, it had to be hardcore, Janus Directive fan to pick up all the clues you left.
Thank you. I am sorry that I wasn't able to continue on with all of that. Like, I was building all of that. Like Dan asked me to like do the Spies. Like for those of you who don't know, and there's so many like newsletters and podcasts are written about this, but when Dan DiDio's last acts as running DC Comics is that he was creating an initiative called the 5G, which is the fifth generation of DC. And the publishing plan was that a bunch of creators were going to have like a lane, or he called it a pillar of story that they were in charge of. And so there was going to be one person that did cosmic and one person that did, the bat stuff, whatever the bat lane was. And I was very into and wanting to build something really special out of Checkmate and Leviathan and all of that space that I thought, hey, what DC needs is a shield and a Hydra. And what had happened over the years is that there was like 6 or 7 different kinds of shield organizations, and like people would just bring new ones out and never get rid of the old one. There was no evolution. It was just stacking hats on hats on hats.
Argus and Checkmate,
and they're all good ideas. Like all of them were cool, but like you got to pick one.
Sure,
one ominous organization with a lot of tendrils, and I was in the middle of building that, and I got a head start because I was under contract. I could start going. So that Leviathan was going to be this ease into this new reality. And by the time we were on Checkmate, it was clear that we weren't going to get to do much more. So I got to at least wrap up Checkmate with like a statement. But again, another, too bad. So, oh well. But every page you read was made with a lot of love and passion, for sure. And one day I think I'll release like I have some documents and stuff that was where we were going, what was going to happen, what the team was going to be, right? It was very Green Arrow focused, that I remember. But by the time we were ready to go, that generation of executives had been either fired or had left, and the pandemic hit, and that was that. So
I hear you. B things.
Yeah. Just want you to know we really loved what we were doing while we were doing it. It's just, it's weird to not be doing it anymore. Yes.
Hi, Brian from B Things. I've been making web comics.
Good.
And I love having my own characters.
Good.
So much. So I kind of know how it feels if I ever get to work on pre-editing or got to work on pre-existing characters. As you've done both, what are they each like? I guess doing your own thing and also doing pre-existing characters. What is it like?
Well, yeah, I came at it differently than you, and I have a lot of friends that came at it with you, where they just were doing their own stuff and weren't ever thinking about doing anything that anyone else owned. Also, someone else owns it. Why would I think about? It's pretty logical not to think about what it would be like to write the Powerpuff Girls. You don't own them, so why would you think about that? But a lot of us I pined to write Spider-Man. I pined to draw it from a little young age. And I walked into comics looking for a way. Could I do that? Could I be part of Spider-Man or could I be part of any of this Marvel stuff? Like, that's what I was looking for. And in my journey, discovered creator-owned comics and more mature storytelling and all of the things that are comics and graphic novels. I don't have to over-explain, but like I then doing, my voice is this. I make crime comics. Oh, maybe I don't make Spider-Man comics. Maybe I'm a crime guy, and maybe I should really take a look at that. And then still found my way to Spider-Man. So you not feeling any passion or desire to write things you don't own is not you're right. That's your brain is telling you what it needs to do. Build your own stuff. At the moment, that's where I am, having done both. I want to make it clear. I know some people even come on this podcast and bitch to holy hell about, about the industry and stuff. I've loved every single experience I've had. And if I didn't love it, it wasn't because of the characters. It was, weaselly nonsense that happens in real life, no matter what's going on. But the actual working both at DC and Marvel and other characters I've worked on over the years, I've really felt a kind of like that, like a responsibility. Like, this is your moment to do something special with this character. And having talked to other people who don't feel that, I'm like, yeah, if you don't feel it, then you should not write Spider-Man. But if you do feel it, then you should find a way. You should try to make that a goal for yourself to get one of those gigs. But at this moment, I can say, even when I get a twinge of like I've been thinking a lot about Indiana Jones this week because of the podcast and everything, right? So when I get that twinge of and people are like, you should write Indiana Jones. I got like literally 20 people this week said you should make the Indiana Jones comic or blah blah blah, and I'm like, I think at this point, even though I've over the years said to many people, hey, if y'all making Indiana Jones, give me a call. At this point, my impulse is, well, what about Indiana Jones do I like? And what can I create for myself that would fulfill that experience and maybe elevate it? Because then I remember that both Star Wars and Indiana Jones, these two formative things in my life, were both created because the creators couldn't get their hands on their first thing.
That's right.
George Lucas famously wanted to get his hands on Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, couldn't get it done, had all these ideas, all this passion that he wanted to put forth. He tried, couldn't get it done, made his own thing to fill all these ideas fall. You get yourself a Star Wars, right? Indiana Jones. Hey, I want to do James Bond, said Steven Spielberg. And broccoli people said, no, you're not British and you never will be, and we're never going to hire you. And it bothers him. It bothers him to this day. He still talks about it. And they said no to him. But instead, they created their own their own James Bond in the form of Indiana Jones that would create all the feelings that they would get creatively out of working on James Bond. So I remembered that these are actually the lessons I was taught by growing up with these characters. It isn't that you should go write them too. It's that the inspiration that was behind the creation is an inspiration that I should follow. So the things I'm creating now, Masterpiece, The Ones, Joy Operations, these are literally like reflections of things that I want to create or energies I want to be part of. And all right, I'm not going to write that thing I don't own, but I'm going to create my own thing. It may not be Indiana Jones, but it is absolutely something I feel very strongly about. So follow that feeling more than following the feeling of I got to write Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man or nothing. And I, by the way, have had friends that walked into this business going, I'm here to write the thing, and then they left, and that's all they wanted to do, right? So everyone has a different path. But if your instinct is to follow your creator-owned voice, what I'm trying to describe to you in this very long answer is that is a very healthy, strong place to be.
Is there any DC? Is there any Disney, Lucasfilm, and Marvel red tape that is keeping us from getting an Indiana Jones?
Someone asked me that last night on the Jinxworld Discord. I'm not there and haven't been there for a few years, so I'm literally talking out of school, but with a little bit of educated guess. I've had friends and have myself worked on licensed comics. Licensed comics are a whole different animal. You've had many people on this podcast talk about this. Licensed comics are a whole different deal, right? When me and Alex were working on Halo, they really tortured us. You think that would have been we took the gig because, we love Halo. That'll be blast. And it was very particular and meticulous over things that none of you actually would care about. And I had friends working on the X-Files comics in the 90s who were dragged through similar likeness hells. So what happens, and I'm not saying that's with Indiana Jones, but it's not hard to imagine that there are approvals and likeness approvals all through the system that are more difficult to do than maybe Star Wars.
Okay.
Right? Where Star Wars is maybe all under one umbrella of things that are already approved, where Indiana Jones I don't know. But I'm saying that when you say, hey, why don't they do that? They may not legally be able to do it at the time, or the hassle. But boy, oh boy. And I have the Dark Horse Indiana Jones omnibuses.
Sure.
I couldn't recommend them higher.
I have them too. No, they're excellent. And yeah, I want more. I want more stories.
And I will tell you, there's a comic out right now called The Horizon Experiment.
Yes.
By Porchik and his team. This one issue called, I believe, Finders Keepers, written by Vita.
Vita Ayala, everybody. Yeah, excellent writer.
And it is the flip of the Indiana Jones idea. It is no, they don't belong in a museum. They belong where you took them from. So it's about a woman who steals things out of museums and puts them back.
Oh, that's great. That's a great idea.
Deeply, deeply envious of this idea. I wish I would have thought of it. I've been dancing around it my whole life. I never got to it. She found it. It's perfect. I know this will be a big giant franchise for them. I'm excited to see it. So if you want to see like a version of someone looking at Indiana Jones and bringing something else to it, that's a perfect example of it.
Well, and Terry Dodson and Portsak Pichat show did a fantastic mirror reverse image of Chinese espionage.
Yeah,
and
like
I can't remember.
Bond,
it's like James Bond, but it's like the Chinese James Bond essentially.
Yeah,
and
the whole project is flips on genre flipping and
very good.
Yeah, the whole thing works. It just works completely.
Well, we mentioned two great writers that we both like very much, Vita Ayala and Portsak Pichat Show, who also gave us the Good Asian. But Mark wants to know, do we have any comic creators that have come on the scene the last 4 years that we think they should watch out for or more people need to be supporting reading. Well, I've got a couple names that immediately come to mind.
Yeah, me too. Go ahead. What you got?
Well, certainly, and I mean, she's already established herself. She's got a shelf full of Eisners. I think Kelly Thompson is one of the best writers of the last 5 years, and it's really been, and she's really a good person as well. So I'm very happy for her. And the other guy that I would have mentioned right away is Ram V. And I think Ram is bringing a very distinct voice to comics. I love his creator-owned books, but I really love what he's been doing at DC in particular. And right now, he's writing the New Gods and a totally new spin on the New Gods with what happened to Darkseid and creating the absolute universe as it has. How does that impact the New Gods? And it's a good portion of a much bigger story. But yeah, both of them have had my attention from the moment that I became aware of them. And I'm like, all right, I'm reading everything these people do.
So because I got to sit at a table with Joe Quesada all those years and watch him and Tom Brevoort, every once in a while that a creator would enter their space and they would consider like when they were hiring Jonathan Hickman and hey, can this guy bring something to the table? Sure. There are sometimes names come around where it's so painfully obvious this is the next hire. If I ran Marvel, I would hire this person the way I was hired, right? Because I got hired off of books that weren't big sellers. I would just, was just doing my thing, right? So, and again, so when I read Precious Metal, and I'm holding it up because I can't pronounce any of those names except for Matt Hollingsworth, who I've worked with, but, Darcy and Ian. This book, which is a kind of a sequel to Little Wing, but it's its own thing. It is high genre art. I just really like a lot of people reach for Mobius levels of invention and sci-fi, and they nailed it. They knocked it out of the park, and it was just really exciting to read. So that everybody involved with this book, I think, is doing killer work. So. Yeah.
Another name comes to mind, and I know it's a guy that's worked with you when you were doing that imprint of Wonder Comics. Mark Russell continues to. Yeah, no. I mean, I've always loved his creator-owned stuff, but man, the stuff he's done for Marvel and DC in the last 5 years, the stuff he's doing right now with the X Factor artist that we all love,
which I read. It's really, really good. But
help me out. I'm being stupid. Give the name.
X Factor or
back in the day, but currently doing Dark Age. You know what I'm talking about. Sorry, come on, chat. All right, chat, help me out because I'm being an idiot.
I will say that Mark Russell is a local pal of mine here in town.
He's amazing.
We are doing in March 6th, we are doing an event here in Portland at Powell's together. He has written a prose novel called Grim and Grimmer, where he adapts. It's an illustrated book where he adapts the Grimm's fairy tales in his style.
Oh, funny!
It is such a wonderful read. I'm literally 100 pages in right now, and I'm I had the great experience of just emailing, going, "Oh, it's great! Oh, it's so much fun to read." It's so Mark's got a book coming out pretty soon that I think a lot of his fans will be really excited to have.
That's cool. I am so stupid. And when people are going to post who the artist is that he's done, Superman Space Age and Batman Dark Age, and he's doing a Wonder Woman Golden Age. Oh, come, and it's Jesus Christ.
I have it here. Hold on.
It's the guy. It's the guy that does the Silver Age looking comics, and he does Batman doing the Bat-2C and. God, he had a great solo that Chiarello did of his stuff. Yes, thank you. God damn it, Timur. Mike Allred, for Christ's sake.
Oh, we're talking about Mike Allred?
I was talking about Mike Allred. That's how stupid I am.
X Factor.
X-Force and X Factor. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
No, I don't, because Mark Russell is writing X Factor right now.
Yes, I did know that.
I thought you were talking about this artist.
No, Quinn. not the current X Factor book,
but
when Mike was doing X Factor in the early 2000s. But he and Russell. Yeah, you're right. And I forgot about X Factor currently, and it's a great story. I've been reading it.
So that's Bob Quinn doing X currently with Mark Russell right now. So,
that's cool.
Allred I came up with. Allred is one of my peers and heroes. So
that's cool. No, and again, I mean, and Mark is a guy that has come in the last 5 years, maybe a little bit longer. But I love, are
Mark
you reading?
Russell?
Yeah, I don't like how. Well, I guess it's longer than 5 years, isn't it? It's almost closer, probably closer to 10 years now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, never mind.
But also
Flintstones, yeah.
Mark still has the greatest of all of our peers. Mark has the greatest breaking in story. He was writing Count Chocula fan fiction, and Maria Javins hired him. So when I'm so excited. He's coming to class on Thursday to talk to the kids, and we go through everyone's secret origin to demystify how breaking in comics is and what it is everyone just finds their own way in, and everyone has a different story, and his is Count Chocula. All right,
hilarious.
You're yawning.
Don't you dare! Don't you dare!
You're sleepy. I'm prime time.
I just said said one yawn. That's all. Just relax. Yes. Everything's good. Oh, Mateo says he loves Mark's My Bad. My Bad is great.
I will tell you that Mike Allred and Matt Fraction have written and created an issue of Minor Threats coming out from Dark Horse. You can pre-order it right now. It is part of a series called Welcome to Twilight. And it just so happens that the second issue is by myself and Sue Lee. And what's cool and Gail's in this project, and I'm blanking on the other names.
Keith Corson, I know, is written for Minor Threats as well.
Yeah, but
this is Patton Oswalt and Jordan, and I forget Jordan's last name.
Yeah, Jordan Bloom.
It is Bloom. Okay, I was going to say Bloom.
Scott Hepburn, another name that I would add to the list of names of who's going to a name you will remember from this generation is Scott Hepburn.
That's cool.
Tremendous talent. And anyway, so it's a new mini series project called Welcome to Twilight, and each creative team has done one issue that adds something to the world of Minor Threats. So if you're enjoying Patton and Jordan's world, each of us have been hired to put a toy in the toy box. So Sue and I created a brand new best friend for Frankie, and Matt and Mike, who are wonderful together. They did FF together years ago. So you're getting these special one-shots by big creative teams, and all added to this new superhero universe.
That's cool.
Proud of. And honestly, it was the first superhero book I'd written in a couple of years. It was kind of cool. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. I had Jordan and Patton on in December.
They are doing... In September, end of the year, they're doing another one of their creator cons. I did their creator con this summer. It was amazing. It was like a big parking lot full of creators just signing books. Wade was there. It was really fun. We had a good time.
That's cool. Oh, Mateo, I appreciate it, man. It's 4:44 a.m. in Argentina.
We love you.
It's more important. Thank you very much, Mateo.
Mateo, email me at brian1138@AOL.
There you go. Brian1138@AOL.com, everybody.
Yeah. I'm going to send you a little something, Mateo.
Oh, that's very nice. Oh, there you go.
A little bonus for staying up, being completely irresponsible in your life, and staying up listening to a comic podcast at 4 o'clock in the morning.
James the Media Mancer, what is a series that went under the radar last year that you both loved? I liked, although maybe it wasn't last year. Because another guy that comes to mind that is getting more work beyond what he did with Zdarsky is Jason Liu. And I like what Liu's been doing lately and everything. I think he's been good. And that was
it's a hard question to answer because I'm not sure what's the radar level, and sometimes I completely get what you're saying. Like give a shout out to something that needs a shout out. But worded that way, it always sounds like the creator was like, "Wow, I'm under the radar," and I've been described that way, and I was like, "Oh, okay, guess I'm under the radar."
Well, and I don't know either, but
at best.
Yeah, well, I don't know either exactly how much or how many sales they got, but really, was it Zdarsky that did Newburn? Didn't he do Newburn?
Yeah, Newburn's really good.
Love Newburn, great crime.
Yeah, the book I've read, and it's all over my feed this week because she guested in my class is Brianna Lowenshun, who wrote and drew a graphic novel called Raised by Ghosts. It's by Fantagraphics. And it's a memoir. It is one of the best graphic novels I've read in the last couple of years. It really struck with me. And it's one of those books, like, not one fact of this life is like my life, but I felt it. And that's one of those when you really feel like you're in the hands of something special. I've gotten to meet her. We had a big talk this week. really impressive person, and that's just out now, and I can't imagine anyone reading it not being really happy they took the time. So that's one. I also read. I've read a few things. Let me tell you. I've read Scott Aukerman's Spider-Man stuff. That's on Marvel Plus. I really liked it. You know what? I started reading it's really funny. I started reading the Micronauts omnibus, the Marvel Micronauts omnibus, and it's like I'm like, dude, did I just like it because I was a kid and I was Star Wars starved, or was it something? Boy, Michael Golden, man, holy shit, he was miles ahead. It was even by today's standard.
Was Mantlo the writer? Was Bill
Mantlo's the writer, but it is.
Yeah, it's Michael. Yeah, it's Michael. Yeah, of course, because of Michael. Yeah, Michael's great. No, it's one of the best things Michael ever did. Oh, that's nice, Stephen. But actually, your dates are slightly off. He says my first episode of Word Balloon was the first Bendis tapes over 20 years ago. Well, no, actually, Brian and I believe. Yeah, we were 06. We were actually in Word Balloon's second year. That because I met Brian at one of the Wizard conventions, and it might have been 05. But I know I handed a bunch of people, including Brian and Brubaker and Rucka, data CDs of MP3s of my shows to go, this is what I do. I've got a radio background. I would like you guys to be on my show. And podcasts were still brand new back then. So, and I remember Rucka being very sweet to me on that Sunday of the convention and going, just so you know, your CD is in my backpack. I have every intention of listening to it on the way home. And I'm like, fantastic. That's great.
So, James, to answer your question a little better, is that I do get to read a lot of stuff before it hits the shelf. Like, it's actually, like, it's kind of like, this is flat out bragging, but it's kind of amazing when you wake up and like Jason Aaron sends you a PDF of Bug Wars. And then my friend Matthew Rosenberg sent me a copy.
I read this. I read it.
Did you love it as much as I loved it?
Absolutely did. Yes. And speaking of James Bond, it kind of is his spin on espionage with a horror twist.
I think this is a pre-order right now. This is an easy pre-order. If
everybody. And I talked to Matthew about that about 2 weeks ago, and it's give him the title of that again, Brian.
The title is "We're Taking Everyone Down with Us."
Yes, man, that is such a
the only thing that I'm not in with the kids is the long titles.
Oh, I was gonna say that's what I love about Matthew, man. All of Matthew's titles on his creator-owned shit is always like, "What's the furthest place from here?" and 4 kids walk into a bank and all that shit. And I love it. Matt is, and again, a guy that's been around more than the last 5 years. He's been around maybe the last 12 years or so.
Matthew's the real deal. Like,
100%.
Matthew's like, if I was running show business, Matthew would be the deputy mayor of show business.
I'm assuming that Speedsty is joining us from Australia and says, "G'day, mates."
All right. And another one I want to recommend that maybe under some people's radar, but is The Forged by Greg Rucka.
Yes, indeed.
Troutman and Henderson. And it is my friend Greg really reaching and trying put his sci-fi nerd mouth where it goes. And it's really, really good read. I really enjoyed it.
A lot of world building happening in the
really trying something. Yeah. I remember years ago, maybe 15 years ago, he came to my class, and for those who know, Greg can be very theatrical. Like, Greg is just a boisterous guy, and it's one of the things I love about him. And Greg just let everybody have it about Mass Effect, the storyline of Mass Effect. And I literally said, I can't wait to see what this turns into creatively. And this is nothing like Mass Effect, but I do believe that tantrum I heard and this are connected. I've had them too about comedy, but this is So
I had that about my podcast. What are you talking about? I was listening to, and no disrespect to Scott Hines and Fanboy Radio back in the day, but Brian knows Brian and Scott were old friends, and I'm sure would still be if.
I haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah, but no, I was listening to Fanboy Radio and going, well, that's not how I would do it, and it's like, well, then do it, dummy. And, months later, Word Balloon started in May 10th of 2005. The big 2-0 is coming up, everybody.
Yeah, I think a lot about how much of our culture is responsive. Like, even if you don't think it is. Like, how much sci-fi are we getting now that is literally people's frustration with the third Matrix sequel? Like where did like how many people saw like Ghost in the Machine and went no, I know what it should have been. Like, you know what I mean? And that's what we were talking about earlier, not to bring it all full circle, but when we're talking about reading good stuff and bad stuff, the bad stuff can really inspire. You know what the good version of this would be? And I should go do that. Yeah.
Did you and Elisa watch Section 31 yet?
Okay, I am not the Star Trek person that Elisa is. Elisa, as you know very well, is a diehard Trekkie, going back generationally. It's the space she shares with her father. It's their love language.
Father and daughter bonding over Next Generation. Absolutely.
Her disappointment and she has nothing but soft spots for them, and they couldn't find their way into her soft spot with this one. I said, I just don't remember you ever being like genuinely disappointed with Star Trek. Like, you always found something to grab onto. And like, we just recently showed our youngins the J.J. Abrams, because they were actually too young to watch them, and they loved them.
Oh, they're fun. The first one certainly is.
First one's great. Second one's weird. Third one, a surprise pivot in the right direction. The only thing that's funny about it is there's like two scenes that star Scotty that would be, but if Scotty hadn't written the movie, would have been Kirk scenes. But other than that, there's some surprising things in that third one.
I'll give you that.
Definitely worth a rewatch. No, it's not. Yeah.
It was funny. Mike Johnson was working for IDW, and Mike worked in the Bad Robot offices when the Kelvin Universe Star Trek movies were being made. His Kelvin Universe comic books were so much better than what we got on the screen. And really, I got to hand it to IDW and former Marvel editor and now current IDW editor, Heather Antos, doing a great job with the franchise. Cantwell is writing an amazing Star Trek book about Ben Sisko, and Lansing and Kelly are killing it. And by the way, that's another good team. And again, I think more than 4 or 5 years ago, but I love everything that Lansing and Kelly have done for DC and Marvel and Star Trek, all three things.
Sure.
And they're great. They are a great writing team, and I love their stuff. But yeah, man, what a waste of $12 million for Michelle Yeoh. I mean, she's going to cash a nice check, and God bless her for doing it. And I love Michelle Yeoh. I've loved her.
I look at it like
Crouching Tiger.
She deserved $12 million for Super Cop, so it evened out.
There you go.
I've had things where I didn't get paid what I deserved for something, but I got it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, it evened out. Yeah.
But man, I'm sorry, man. Just there's an ineptness to the making of Section 31.
What a bummer, because they've really been on basically a roll for a long time. I mean, even if it wasn't like, oh right, I know. But look, I will say you've been having a fitful relationship where Elisa has just been everything.
And I'm thrilled for her, truly. And I know my other friends
loved everything she wanted. She loved every second of it.
That's awesome.
And when I saw on my podcast feed your Department 13, Section 13 episode, it was like over 2 hours. I literally went, oof.
Well, thankfully.
That's a 2-hour tantrum.
Well, actually, it was only a 90-minute tantrum. And it reminds me, because I wanted to ask you about this. And then 90 minutes in, Mitch goes from Terrific On. He's like, all right, you've given us 90 minutes of your bile. Can we move on to Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man? I'm like, yes, absolutely. And I like it. I like the cartoon, the new.
I haven't seen it yet. Report from my son, it's great. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
And the animation style for the show, it looks like a comic book moving, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
I really love the way they've the art direction on this. And
yeah, can't wait to check it out. I will. With Spider-Man stuff, I just got to be in the mood. Like,
I get it.
I'm not
sure.
I have a different relationship to all of it, and I just got to.
Any word on the next Spider-Verse film?
Okay, not a peep. Nothing. They call me when they need me.
Right.
They don't need me right now.
So, okay, fair enough.
Fingers crossed. Hope it's great.
I get that. Any other TV or film that you've recently?
Yeah, we got. I'm done at Amazon, but shockingly, Torso came together in a way that surprised out of nowhere with a huge producer, the biggest we've ever had so far on Torso. And I have some other stuff cooking. I am getting allergic to announcing things that aren't closed or done deals or something that would actually affect someone else's life. Like you know what I mean? Yeah. So I have a couple really cool things going on. And
wait a minute though, regarding Torso, is it a limited series? Is it a film? What
to be continued?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, to be continued. Yeah.
I'd ask.
Yeah. Right. But like just to showing like I have the same lawyer since I started, and it's like we're still doing this. Okay, well, boy, it'd be great if we got like a movie out of it or something at the end. Because
that was one of your original caliber books, Torso. Sure.
It's the third issue of the original Fortune and Glory is us trying to get Torso made. Literally, people were like, some people said, I thought this literally was going to be you letting us know what happened to Torso 25 years ago. And I'm like, still doing it. Still there. It's crazy. So
Steve wants to know real fast regarding Torso and Draco.
Yeah. Mark is the co-creator of Torso. So and we're pals. And so anything that happens to us equally on Torso. Torso wouldn't happen without Mark.
Honestly, I'm glad you gave us what you can as far as your own TV and film update, but I was wondering just as a viewer if you've watched anything good lately.
Oh, I thought he meant us. I thought he meant
no, and I'm glad you know.
That's where we're working on this whole time.
No. I was going to get to that as well, but that's always part of the Bendis Tapes is recommendations.
Well, again, the SNL documentaries took up a lot of space. I've been more podcasting than TV watching lately, so there's been a lot of that. Oh, I was going to say for those who were questioning the validity of the modern SNL cast members, I would, if you get a chance to check out La Culturista's Bowen Yang's podcast with his friend Matt Rogers. They literally just had Sarah Sherman on this week, and it was 2 hours of shit your pants funny improv. Awesome. They were just literally getting into it and talking about their lives, and you could just see how deeply funny they are and how much they love each other. But that podcast in general is like a nice kind of look into a part of what's going on in comedy right now that I really love.
That's cool. Fly on the wall still when they have a guest that I'm interested in.
I'm the same way. I gotta like. Do I want to hear David Spade lose his shit about the '90s again to this person? Like David's trauma about his SNL years is so severe and not healing. And I even thought, they let him. He just did the Hunter Biden bit. He was on the show recently, and I'm like, was that healing? Nope, wasn't healing at all. Just stress them the fuck out. So I agree. It's one of the things that interests me. Smartless is the same way, where I'm like, I was so into that show like 2 years ago, and now it's like, I do not want to hear them talk to Bill Gates.
You know who's got a great podcast is, and sometimes Woody Harrelson's with him, but where everybody knows your name, the Ted Danson podcast. And
I gotta say, I like him by himself more than with Woody, even though Woody's not a bad addition to it.
No. It's more focused when it's Danson. When he and Mary Steenburgen talked to Dick Van Dyke and Dick Van Dyke's wife,
it was really good.
And it's so, man, I felt the same way as Carl Reiner was still alive, where it's like these guys are and I know Mel's like this too. These guys are in their 90s, but they're still with it because they have a reason to get up in the morning. I saw in my own family, my aunt's husband, who's a nice guy. But yeah, man, he just gave up like the last 10 years of his life. He just did not give a screw, and because of that. He really kind of disintegrated. Whereas these guys wake up every day and they got something to do and they got a reason to be out there.
Dick Van Dyke literally says in the interview, it's on YouTube. You can watch it too. I actually recommend watching it because you see the look on his face, right? Yeah. And they're like talking about it, and you can see like there's Ted Danson, who is an old man, who was like
he's in his 70s.
He's an elder statesman who has lived a long life, and he is looking at this man who's been in his life the whole time, and he's still there. And the guy goes, talk to me about it. He goes, what's to talk about? He goes, I'm 99 years old. I could die right this second.
It's true.
I could die right now, and no one would be shocked. It would just be like, he's 99. It's time to go. That I might not die ever. Like it's just like,
Did you see that Coldplay video that he did with Coldplay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what they were out promoting a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, and if everyone's only seen the 3-minute one or the 4-minute one, watch the 7-minute one that really gets into even a mini interview with the Coldplay guy and Van Dyke. And I don't remember the Coldplay guy's name. I got to be honest. Not that I care that much about Coldplay, but it's a good song.
Why am I blanking? I know his name.
Of course you do. Yeah, you know.
I know that he consciously uncoupled from Gwyneth Paltrow. How do I not remember his name? I don't know that.
I don't know. But no, it was very adorable that Van Dyke sings with him, and also clearly the Coldplay guy really respects Van Dyke. And the same goes with this conversation between Mary Steenburgen and Ted Danson and Van Dyke's wife and him and stuff. No, it's great. Thank you, Stephen. Yes, of course, Chris Martin.
Of course, it's Chris Martin. But I say if you like that conversation, and I guess because we're getting a little older, every once in a while, not all the time, but every once in a while, I like to hear some wisdom from some older people who kind of like, like I find the 50s to be the messiest decade. Like this is like an emotionally messy decade, a physically messy decade. And I don't remember anyone warning me that was coming. Like I don't like it. So I've been like trying to listen to some people talk about the future a little bit more, like kind of see where or you see someone who's genuinely found a happiness that's like, you genuinely found happiness and peace, and how exciting that must be, and when will that happen? Like so watching them talk to him, like you could see that Ted Danson's like wrestling with some mortality issues, and with a guy who literally, I might die right now, and he is not wrestling with an ounce of it. He's completely come to terms with it a long time ago. It was very fascinating. And on the same notion, Julie Louis-Dreyfus has a podcast where she only talks to older women of accomplishment, and in the idea that, hey, who never talks, who's got all the wisdom and no one ever asks them a goddamn thing, is older women. And that is born to be true. Every podcast has been like, wow, I really learned something today, including like, I couldn't believe like I learned something from the Jane Fonda podcast that changed my life. Like they really made me like
that Julia did better. That Julia did with Jane Fonda.
Yeah, I really I needed to hear that. So sometimes just listening to older people, at this age that I am, I used to, when I was younger, listen to older people thinking I was just listening to what happens when you're an adult, but now I know there's just different phases of adulthood, and trying to like putting myself where I now know I'm going.
And again, that's why it's been important for me to, on Word Balloon, to talk to as many older creators as I have been able to in these 20 years. And really, I'm glad that I had the hours of conversation with Denny O'Neil and hours with Marty Pascal, and I still have them with Paul Kupperberg. And again, awesome. And by the way, everybody, the direct conversation books that Paul has released lately, that initially collected his interview, or his he used to do interviews in the DC company's newsletter, and they were called Direct Currents. And he would do these great interviews with a lot of the Bronze Age creators that aren't with us anymore. Guys like Kurt Swan and, some of the other names from the 70s and 80s that aren't with us anymore. And then he went further and has also done a couple subsequent books of new interviews, but with the people that were there, like Paul Levitz, like Jack C. Harris, and Bob Rozakis, the Answer Man, people like that were so important to DC again in the 70s and 80s. And they have this perspective that, again, you're not going to find with younger creators. They were there. And I know this is a broken record on my part, but I really get angry at the other podcasters who really think they know comic book history. Well, the real story was. And it's like, no, you don't know. You've just heard the rumors all these years. And
it's like a fable that gets like handed down. It changes over time. And it's happened to me too, where a story I've heard a million times over the years, and then I meet the person and they tell you the real story. And you're like, oh, well, that's 40% true what I heard, I do. B Things asked a random but very good question. It's something that's been on my mind lately, is what is my familiarity, interest in manga and other non-American style comics? So there's a little bit of brag here, and I apologize, but part of the cool part of this gig is I get to travel. I get to go places. and often I don't do American shows because I've chosen to go to Belgium instead, because what an experience. I got to go to Belgium last year. I got to go to Abu Dhabi. Wow. And even when every place I go, and I get let me rewind a little bit. I get super frustrated with my manga literacy. I have some, and I've read a lot, and I love Akira more than most humans that live on this planet. But I know that my literacy is low, and I teach. And every semester we do a class where the kids bring their favorite stuff to class, and we talk about it at great length. And they've always, almost to a fault, parading a bunch of books and projects I've never even heard of, things that were not targeted at me, shown to me. But when I see them, I go, oh my God, look, there's so much stuff to read. And then, so manga frustrates me alone. And then I go to Belgium, and there's a whole Belgium comic scene. And then I go to Abu Dhabi, and there's a whole scene there. 10 years ago, I was down in Bolivia. I couldn't believe the comic scene was going on in Bolivia. So I live kind of in a constant stress of, I know for a fact that I'm missing out on a bunch of cool shit. And I have some friends that are musicians and filmmakers that have said the same thing about their mediums, that once you're a filmmaker, you go to a film festival, you go, oh man, I didn't know about any of this. And then you try to take in as much as you can, but it's literally almost impossible to take in everything. And instead, including just keeping up on what's going on in the creator-owned space right now in American comics, could take hours a day. And which is great, but it's a frustration that I live with. I just want to tell you, I have a frustration. So anyone that ever stops me where I am on Jinxworld or on any social media and says, Brian, I genuinely think you would love this, I genuinely take the recommendation. Because if anyone went out of the way to think of me when they were reading something, I take that recommendation very seriously. So bring it on. If there's something you think I should be reading, I will read it.
Well, and honestly, I love Franco-Belgian comics, Bede or Bed, because one is the thing that cleans your ass when you're in a Japanese toilet, and the other thing is Franco-Belgian comics. So I'm sure I'm mispronouncing one or the other, but I love those. Yeah,
I loved being in Belgium. I loved breathing in Belgium. I loved going to the Cartoon Comic Art Museum in Belgium. I literally came home and said, Portland is this in American comic scene. Why don't we have a museum? Why they celebrate it. When I was at the Belgium Comic Book Museum, there were school buses of kids getting off the bus like you do at the Science Museum here in America, with that look on their face like, oh, it's a field trip, I guess we have to do this today. And I'm like, oh, they get to go to a comic book museum for school. This is heaven. So yeah, and the show itself revealed itself to be like that as well. So yeah, I get again, not to brag, but I've been to the Australia comic book scene, which Tom Taylor was part of when I visited them. Just like everywhere you go, there's something really cool happening, and some of it's regional and some of it translates out.
Honestly, talking to Deck Shalvey and Stephen Mooney in Ireland, and my buddy Owen McCauley as well, I'm getting hipper and hipper to the Irish comic scene. Yeah, and Will Sliney is part of that as well. Great Marvel artist. No, it's great. And really, they really have opened my eyes to a lot of cool stuff that they've been doing. Mark, I agree. Does anyone not have a podcast? Well, I'm proud to say I've been doing it for 20 years. So yeah,
you're OG.
I am. I will truly. I used to put it in astronaut terms, and it's like, yeah, I'm a Mercury astronaut. I'm one of the original Mercury 7, because truly, and there's only a handful of us that started in 2005, and
you haven't had to do any apology episodes like a lot of long running podcasts.
I got to think. I don't think so. I really don't think so. The only time John Rood was this great DC executive, came from ABC Television. John Rood, and he was there, and he did everything, because he was also involved with animation and when they had DC Nation on Cartoon Network and all that stuff. And I know I said something, and he's like, well, that's not how it happened, and you really need to do an explanation of how it really went down. And I really like John, and I'm like, he used to be with no, I take that back. I was going to say he was with Bob Wayne and the other John that was the marketing guy, but no, John was not. And I'm like, John, come on the show and tell me what really happened. Same with Patrick Schumacher. When you and I were ripping Powerless, the NBC show that Vanessa Hudgens did that didn't make it. And he had
to powers, so I got my comeuppance. So
of course. And he's like, I don't blame you for crapping on the show, but it really went down differently. And I said, please come on, Patrick, and tell us. Thankfully, happy ending to Patrick's story. Not only was he the original producer and showrunner for the animated Harley Quinn series that is now in its 5th year and just amazing, but he's been a very important creative part of Abbott Elementary and has won a lot of hardware for it. And I love that. And he's a smart, funny guy, and nothing made me happier to see him succeed.
All from the lessons he learned on a show that didn't work.
It wasn't even originally his show. It was a show NBC handed him and said, well, comics, do something with us. And it was the wrong show. I mean, it would have been better on Peacock or a streaming channel. It was not right for network television. And it was a funny show, actually.
Yeah, sometimes it's just the wrong place, wrong time, wrong vibe. There's nothing wrong with the story or the cast or anything. It's just, it doesn't, and not even superhero stuff. Just same thing with sitcoms and dramas. Like, it's just timing. Sometimes people are really in the mood for it. Someone was talking about the other day about how if Breaking Bad aired today, would it hit as hard? Or are people in the mood for that like they were then? Yeah, like
sure.
Problematic men with a sinister thing was all the rage, like the Tony Sopranos of it all.
Yes,
right. Not right now.
Yeah, I get it.
Sometimes it's just timing,
Oh my God. Well, I mean, come on. Police Squad was a very great TV show that never found its audience.
There's tons of them.
And obviously then goes on to make 3 successful movies. I'm curious to see Liam Neeson take over the franchise.
We'll see. They talk about it a lot on the Seth Meyers podcast because one of the Lonely Island guys is involved.
Oh, interesting.
So
interesting.
Fingers crossed. It does sound like they really gave it their all. So we'll there's a lot going on there. We'll see. So.
I'm just mad he's not going to be Qui-Gon ever again. Because he was great. I mean, I was so really after the tease we got at the end of Obi-Wan, I'm like, oh great, when we'll get a Qui-Gon. Okay. No, I'm never doing it again. Okay.
You'll love this. So recently I showed London, we did the Nolan Batmans, which he'd never seen because he
great. Well, there you go.
He just turned 12. So he's
That's
just
good.
at that age.
Yeah.
Give it to me, right?
Sure.
And he did know they were great. He knew they were considered great movies, and I did warn him about the third one. And but I said, there's a big argument among fans which one's better, Batman Begins or Dark Knight. Like for a long time, people thought Dark Knight was the best. It was the high watermark, but on with time, sometimes things change, and now there's a real argument that Batman Begins is one of the best ones, right?
Sure.
And so we watched it, and he turns to me and like right away and goes, Liam Neeson goes, so that's Ra's al Ghul, and I go. He figured out like before the credits rolled, he figured out it was Ra's al Ghul. And he goes, he look, and I go like that. He goes, it looks just like Ra's al Ghul. He looks at I go, I promise you, everyone in the theater fell for it. Everyone in the theater fell for it.
Yeah, they didn't know.
He had played the mentor role in every other franchise.
Sure.
So, he's doing
Qui-Gon.
the Neeson thing.
Yeah, this is Batman Qui-Gon, absolutely.
Yeah. And the same thing happened when my daughter watched The Good Place. When I watched The Good Place, I completely fell for the twist. Don't want to spoil anything. There's a huge twist.
Yes.
Completely fell for it. My daughter, who does not have a relationship with Ted Danson's previous work,
Olivia,
immediately saw the twist coming.
Which daughter?
Olivia.
It was Olivia. Okay.
Yeah, Olivia. Oh, I knew he was the bad guy immediately. I'm like, oh, really? Because I totally said, no, that's Sam Malone. He's not going to fuck. Huh?
Yeah. Oh my God, no, that's
sometimes
great
it's
series.
just like generationally, what's your relationship to the actor can really like.
Oh no, you're right, and that's where you get these great twists. I never watched the show that Rob Lowe did immediately after West Wing. It was another NBC show. It was called The Lion's Den.
Yeah,
and they, it only had like half a season or maybe a full season. But in the last episode, there was I don't know if you knew this. It's you can look it up, everybody, on Wikipedia. But there is a massive twist with his character that is disturbingly shocking. and really, and again, it's a cancel
spoilers,
show.
Everybody, for the Lions Den.
Yeah, exactly. For all of you Rob Lowe fans that didn't get to it, we think he's the hero all this time, and then at the end of the last episode, he kills like one of the main women on the show, and it turns out he's this villain, and it's like, who the fuck knew? Wow, that's amazing. You know what I loved of his, and it was a stupid show, but it made me laugh. Him, William Devane, and Fred Savage, The Grinder, where he was the lawyer on TV, and his dad and his younger brother actually have a law firm, and he, of course, never went to law school, but he's going to work at the firm because he was the grinder.
Yeah, but it weirdly, like Fred Savage was not nice on that show, like famously.
Right.
Yeah.
You mean behind the really behind the scenes? Yeah, maybe that's why it was canceled. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
interesting.
Weird.
Well, and he's had his issues recently. That's really nice, Mark. Mark says he's been listening to me since year one, and when I was on the old world boards. Well, among them,
while we were talking, I get my podcast updates, and while we were talking, they just announced that Ki Hu Kwan is the guest on Fly on the Wall.
Oh wow, that's great! Oh, I look forward to hearing him.
I might have to go now.
Absolutely, no, all right, and I respect that.
What is a David Spade short round conversation? I have no idea. I have to figure this out.
And when they do Superfly on Fridays, and it's just them riffing, I'm sorry, it's not good. And I mean, listen, these are two very talented comedians, but I really feel like they're just like cracking farts and expecting us to laugh. And it's like, okay, boys, try a little harder, please.
To much. I get they are very like guest oriented for me. Like
they gotta be. Yeah, they need the guest.
I'm like that with quite a few podcasts actually. So,
no, I hear you, man. Mateo, and this is great. He gives us an Argentine comic. He recommends The Eternaut, one of the really good Argentine comics that I know have American editions. I also recommend researching about the creator. He has a fascinating story. I love, although I don't know, are they Argentina, the brothers? Gabriel and Fabio? Gabriel Ba and Fabio Moon, are they Argentina?
Don't think so, but maybe.
All right, shame on me for countrying them.
Me too.
But I love those guys, and Fabio's been.
If we had Google machines, we could look this shit up while we were talking.
Well, we're busy. We're busy. That's interesting. Justin says he recently rewatched Heroes season 1. It holds up, but it was fascinating. It was fascinating to watch it fall apart as time goes on. Yeah, that strike 18 years ago, 07. Really fucked Heroes bad. Loeb and I talked about it as it was happening, and they never got their momentum back the way they had in that first season. Yeah,
it's also some of these shows. I got that vibe from that. Lost had this too, where it's like they got greenlit, and they didn't really have a plan other than getting greenlit, and then they had to figure it out, and then the expectations rose, and they go, oh, what do we do with these expectations? They weren't ready for them. Like not every show gets like a momentum, but like fans interested momentum, and that really can change like the game you're playing with your story. And
I hear you.
So we had a few like that where they just were not able to rise to the occasion of what was being asked of them.
I remember Jesse Alexander and Loeb telling me that about Alias.
By the way, the brothers are Brazilian. I knew this because it is part of Diana Schutz's TED Talk. Where she
there you go.
So
there you go.
I actually knew that as a fact. So I apologize.
I'm always Fabio's come through Chicago a few times since the first time I met them face to face when I was staying with you at Rose City that year in Portland and everything. Yeah. And no, I love those guys. And I'm like, it's so funny because really, like, I did not expect to see him at C2E2 like 2 years ago. I'm like, Jesus, Fabio, my God, it's been a couple of years. Great to see you. And of course, he's cool. He'll talk to me. But I'm just like, guys, whenever you have something new, please let me know. Because they're like, we'll come back when we got something new. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm like,
you guys don't know who we're talking about, look for a book called Casanova by Matt Fraction and the brothers.
Gabriel Ba, Fabio Moon, that's their pen names. They are the brothers. They also did Day Trippers for Vertigo, which is an excellent comic graphic series. And I forget the book. It might have been called Two Brothers. Their Brazilian history graphic novel. That I did. That was when I had them on the show. And no, they're amazing.
Did a page of my Legion run with me. I can't remember if he did it or not, but I think he did.
All right. I'm glad Josh brings this show up because he wants to know, have we watched the latest season?
I haven't yet, and not for any reason other than I'll get to it. Like I'm kind of like saving it for like a scrumptious little meal. I know it was it was talked about, but I cannot speak to it of
all I'll say
I was
is
watching Slow Horses this whole thing. That's the show.
What a great show. My
God damn, I loved it. Yeah.
I honestly think this is a good era for spy shows. I know there are just so-so ones as well, but
it's funny because there's a wave of shows that do my favorite premise, a premise I've done in my books a few times. They're really a spy, and and so I love that thing, but
sure,
I don't like when Mark Wahlberg does it.
Well, I respect that.
No, it's weird. It's like they misuse the idea of a surprise spy, or this person shouldn't be a spy, shouldn't be a role for Chris Evans or Mark Wahlberg. It's a role for like Seth Rogen, right? It's like not the guy, right? So you're watching like a movie like Ghosted, where it's like, I'm not a spy, I'm a farm guy. I'm like, no, you're fucking Captain America, and you're not. It's like you need to be a bit of a nebbish or something other than like the perfect statement of human biology. It just doesn't make any sense.
Am I misremembering? Is Keira Knightley? Because I only watched the beginning of one of her.
I watched the pilot. I'll get back to it. It does.
Yeah, that's how I am. Yes.
Yeah, I liked it, and I liked her a lot. I actually, oh, this is what she should be doing. This is really good. I always found her very appealing as an actress.
Oh yeah. Oh no, she's great.
But I said I took a break from it because I watched all of Peaky Blinders, which was one of the great TV experiences of my personal life. But that was one of the best meals I've ever eaten. And then I went right into Slow Horses, and that also landed very strong, even though Peaky Blinders kind of flattened me creatively. Like I'm just like, whoa! Like I have a whole new goal in my life of what I want to accomplish after watching Peaky Blinders. But then I watched Slow Horses, which landed, and then I started watching. It's called Black Doves, and I went, oh, is it now we're getting British spy shows that are something and an animal, like Slow Horses, it's the same bit. And it felt samey to me. So I'm like, you know what? I don't think this is actually the same, but I'm taking it in wrong. Let me come back to it after I've taken a break from my excellent British shows.
Have you gotten to Monsieur Spade, the Clive Owen, Sam Spade?
It's on my list. Did we talk about it last time?
You hadn't seen it yet, so I was wondering if you've gotten to it.
It's hard. That is not a bullshit thing I'm saying. I'm like, it's really on my to-do list.
I was really impressed because I think that's a tall order because Bogart is so indelibly Sam Spade, and to ask anyone else to do it, unlike Marlowe, I'm much more open to, although there have been crappy Marlowe movies as well, mentioning Liam Neeson, but and oh, by the way, have you ever seen this Mitchum movie from the 70s that Paul Schrader did, the Yakuza?
Of course I've seen the Yakuza.
Attaboy. All right.
No, I actually rewatched it because like that book I did, Pearl, was kind of like a response to storytelling, even though Yakuza's by Sidney Pollack. Pollock, I think.
Oh, it was Pollock? Okay.
Okay. Peaky Blinders. Peaky Blinders is a show that having talked to a lot of my friends who can't get into it, you gotta hang with it for a couple hours to get into their vocals. They speak differently than other shows. But my God, I promise you, it is such a payoff. Like this movie's coming. I can't even imagine what the movie is. Like the show was such a payoff. So, and also Peaky Blinders has this unique thing where every season has a guest star who they're just the next thing they do is become a big giant movie star.
Oh, wow.
So Tom Hardy, it's the best thing Tom Hardy's done.
Interesting.
Full stop. He plays a Jewish mobster that makes his work on Venom just look like, oh, look what you can do, man. Don't do Venom. Look what Venom, you can do, man.
No, I'm a big Tom Hardy fan. But
this Venom, is best. And like Anna Taylor-Joy shows up in the 4th season, and you go, oh, you're about to be a giant movie star. Because she shows up, you go, look at this giant movie star just walked in the room.
That's hilarious.
One of these first roles. So it's filled with like monster performances and ideas. Anyway.
B-Thing has a couple questions.
Oh, yeah. So go ahead. Going back to Yakuza,
tell me
part
about
of
Yakuza.
Pearl was like very aware that for some reason the Yakuza was responsible for a lot of bad representation, really hateful representation. Like, no offense to Ridley Scott, Black Rain does not aged well. As far
haven't
as how
seen
they
it forever.
represent.
Okay, interesting to hear. Go ahead.
It's just very
stereotypical,
very sweaty, cocaine, angry Michael Douglas, and all of the male Asian characters are so hateful towards each other and women. And the same thing in that movie Sean Connery made, Rising Sun, with
so Snipes.
That one's terrible representation, just terrible, including whatever Sean Connery is supposed to be playing. Yes. And so I was just very, very aware that this was a minefield of bad representation, and if I was going to approach it, that I needed to really think about my choices and how they might feel and how they might age. So Yakuza was in there too, because Yakuza is like Sidney Pollack, and it does have some stuff where I'm like, you guys should have done more research. There is more that could have been done in this space. Again, at different times, but
yeah. Visually, though, I really believe Frank Miller got so much inspiration from that movie, because it really feels like a graphic novel, certain shots and everything. And also, I'm fascinated by Mitchum's 70s output. Mentioning Marlowe made me think of the Yakuza as well, because I like, well, at least one of his Marlowe movies from the 70s, if not both of them. But well, there's Farewell, My Lovely, and I forget the name of the other one.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
He made two. I know that.
Okay, I only think I'm Farewell.
But yeah, all right. So B things, couple questions. Okay. Brian and John, how has technology affected your respective creative processes, both good or bad? Really fast, I'll say it's extended my broadcast career, podcasting. I mean, I was at the beginning of COVID, downsized, and have not been able to get back into regular traditional radio. That's fine, because I'm getting a lot of satisfaction from the Word Balloon podcast and doing my kind of show. And much like a creator-owned comic creator, I don't have to answer to a company that says, no, we don't want the character to go this way. It's my show, and I get to do what I want. So, that's Brian, awesome. You go ahead and talk about.
Speaking of which, you guys should really sign up to the Word Balloon Patreon. We've been talking behind the scenes about there's some cool stuff that space can offer and will offer, and I think that's the best way to support John's enormous contribution to the comic book space and this archive of material that I'm just proud to be part of. But we were talking about, like, he's got this archive of interviews and creative journeys, just Tom King and like all these other people that you've talked to over and over and over again. You can really like watch this growth of people and of the industry itself. And John's one of the few people who's literally been there, boots on the ground, the last 20 years, just constantly reporting on it with no judgment, and that's kind of amazing.
Thanks,
particularly in the pop cultures.
Thank you.
For me, yeah, it's the plus is almost every part of it's plus, in that I can communicate to my friends all over the world. I mean, these are things that like I've been writing recently about the early days of Powers. And when we first started making Powers together, when me and Mike first met each other, he faxed me over some drawings that he did of my characters in his style. A fax machine, you can Google it. It's a thing you can Google. But like, and how amazing it was that someone would reach out to me via fax to be creatively my partner. And from those days to where we are now, right? Zooming with my friends all over the world, talking, communicating with people all over the world. So that's been amazing. Number two, when I was coming up in comics, it was like, hopefully they'll be in stores or they won't. And that's all you could do, is maybe maybe that cool store in San Francisco will order 2 extra copies of your comic. And wouldn't that be great? Now everyone has a comic book store in their pocket. And when people don't buy your book, it is very pointedly a rejection. But I could buy it right now. I'm choosing not to. No, but the reality is that like the idea that everybody hearing our voice or listening to us talk about stuff could go grab whatever we're talking about, including like I sold some copies of Precious Metal tonight, and I don't even know those guys, and the fact that some of you just went and clicked and hit buy on precious metal made me very happy that it's not some kind of scavenger hunt that it used to be what independent comics was for us back in the day. Now it's just a matter of making sure people know what you're up to. So that is great. And also just being able to like talk to anybody who wants to talk to us about comics is kind of amazing. The downside, the bummer, not the downside, but the frustration that I have to deal with as a creator is when there's new programs get invented, I literally have to retrain myself, and nothing makes you feel more like an old than like, okay, now I got to learn Canva. But you do. But so like I spent so many years like learning how to do this and learning how to do that, and now we don't do that anymore. We do this, and I'm like, okay, now I got to learn this. And so as I get older, it's trying to make sure that I pick the right things to train myself on, the things that I think will actually like last more than 3 years.
Yes.
And I've made mistakes in the past where I spent a lot of time learning something that didn't end up being a thing, like my Betamax collection. No, so making sure you're picking the right technologies, and also like just the small ways in which technology changes publication and making sure that your work still looks good in it. You know, like I'm so grateful that the Dark Horse people, particularly everywhere I've worked, has done it, but there was such love and care went into the reproduction of my 90s work at Dark Horse. They actually found typos that I hadn't fixed from 30 years ago. And this has been edited by Marvel editors, DC editors, Image editors, and there were still typos, not because those editors sucked, because that's what they're dealing with me.
Sure.
All
sure.
Right? And so the ones that are out right now, I believe are perfect, because there was a genuine sense of like really trying to make sure they were doing
good
right with how they treated the work, and
good.
And I really appreciate it, but it made me go, ugh, does this artwork look like anything today? Like it was drawn decades ago.
Hilarious
feeling. So it's great to that it doesn't seem old to people, or it doesn't read terribly at this point. But yeah, it's just, you know, that's so for right now, I'd say technology is your best friend. Technology is your window to your audience. Technology is your window to other creators, and it's a window to what might be the future. I will say that I am in the same notion. AI is not the future. It is not where we're headed. And I think a lot of people kind of know it by now. Like you see, there was a lot of people trying to make comics with it, and they kind of stopped because they didn't look good. They didn't feel like anything. And you're like, oh yeah, this isn't what it feels like to make comics. Like the mess you make is part of the experience. So I'm hoping that AI eventually becomes a tool like Photoshop that is something we can all use and enjoy, and will be an accentuation. But right now, I would steer clear of it, just because I don't think it's going to help you creatively, and I don't think it's going to teach you anything. In fact, it's probably going to stand in the way of you learning some stuff you might want to learn on your own first.
And it's funny because the mirror opposite is what's going on in broadcasting with AI, because for the longest time, one of my main jobs in radio was writing and performing and producing audio radio commercials.
Sure.
And they are leaning on AI to write, because unfortunately I would write Stan Freberg, the great radio comedian and advertising comedian, one of my heroes. Got to meet him in San Diego one time he was there, which was amazing, and I just gushed to him.
He was like a guest in San Diego?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was fantastic. 20, maybe 14 or 13, around there. Cool. Yeah, it was crazy, man. It was so funny. The only guy that I ran into to tell was Remender. And I'm like, Ricky, I just met Stan Freberg. And he's like, I don't know who that is. And I'm like 50s comedian. He might have, though.
He could have.
Well, I said 50s comedian. He goes, I know Lenny Bruce. I'm like, that's good, but that's not who I met, but that's all right. But anyway, there so much scripts are being written by AI these days. And also, you know, you'll bust your ass and come up with a really funny, creative commercial. And then the sales rep who, you know, is the sponsor's voice is like, you know, he really just wants a 60 rip and read. And AI can do that. And also the only saving grace, and I only know this, and you would know it too as a pop culture nerd, where our knowledge goes beyond our lifespans and we know old stuff, is I love these AI generated narrations of a lot of videos that I watch on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and they mangle names and have no idea how to say
They
names.
mangle words. I see that
Yes.
a lot on some. I mean, it's not like quote unquote important stuff, but if you're going to narrate this, get it right. Get it right, because it feels like with all the other stuff going on in the world, like we're going to lose our culture. We keep like whittling away at the details until like stuff just gets lost. So I don't mean to old man it, but like I don't mind like the idea of an AI that would be able to like do that, but it can't at the moment. It's just
no, you're right.
It's the six-finger version of narration.
I have
almost right, which makes it worse than bad.
100%. No, you're right about that, man. No, it drives me crazy. It does.
So Harvey Picar's ghost, which I love when Harvey Picar's ghost comes to visit us, asked if there was any bad Schrader movies. Well, he did make a movie with Lindsay Lohan in.
Well, he says from the 70s and 80s, but tell me the bad Lindsay Lohan movie.
But there's a Lindsay Lohan one that is. I did not.
Oh no, that. I was thinking Britney Spears, Crossroads.
No, it was Lindsay Lohan and an adult film star, and it was like kind of improv-y adult film of some sort.
Oh, but weird!
It was during her desert years after Hollywood said that's enough. So yeah, and I will say he does. Boy, I love all those guys. He does seem to be the biggest
jerk
a-hole of the group.
Maybe
he doesn't like I love that how many times you hear Martin Scorsese, who says nothing bad about anybody, says I only made Last Temptation of Christ to stop Paul Schrader from directing it.
Hilarious. I never heard that.
I want to see that movie's existence, so I literally stopped what I was doing and did it to stop him. So it's very funny.
Oh, Harvey knows. He says, the movie at the Chateau Marmont with the porn guy. Okay. Not every experiment works.
But it was like, but he is a director because of his pedigree and his big swings. I will check out like even a swing like that to see what's going on. And also, I'm kind of always rooting for these older guys to like swing one last one. Me and Fraction had.
I wanted to ask. Go on.
Like we saw Sidney Lumet's last movie. The Devil Knows You're.
Oh, sure.
When the Devil Knows You're Dead with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Marissa Tomei. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it now.
No, he had it till the end.
Great. But watching like an old man make one last killer is one of my favorite things to do. It's also my second favorite thing to do is watch Tarantino completely talk himself out of ever being able to do that. He did it again this week. And but film is dead, so I'm not going to make any more.
Didn't you and Fraction see Leaving Megalopolis, the Coppola movie?
No, he saw Megalopolis and told me it was the best movie he's ever seen. And then I watched Megalopolis, and I will say I did not respond to it the way Matt did, but I am very happy I watched it.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like there's some things you go, all right, that's like I don't even know if what it is, if it's good, like if good or bad applies to it. Like that's how weird it is. It's the strangest. Yeah. Philip Seymour Hoffman is really great in this.
Oh yeah, before the Devil or whatever.
It's really one of his best, and not a lot of people have seen it.
No, it's a good movie.
But the Megalopolis is filled. For those who haven't, check out How Did This Get Made? They just did Megalopolis. Listen to them talk about it. They did a great job communicating the roller coaster of craziness that is watching that movie. They said it perfectly that every Coppola is in this movie except Nicolas Cage, and it's a Nicolas Cage movie.
I get it.
And Adam Driver is giving a Nicolas Cage performance. That is a perfect.
I get it. Oh no, and not even seen the movie, but I totally understand what that means. That's outstanding. Yeah. Well, that's how I felt about. Speaking of Spielberg, going back to Spielberg, that's how I felt about AI, the movie that he finished of Kubrick's, and it's like, okay, this is a weird movie that doesn't work on a lot of levels. I'm really glad I saw it though, because I appreciated the ambition of Spielberg going, wait, I think I can make this. And again, it's a weird movie, but knowing both heads, Kubrick's and Spielberg's, just as a movie fan, I found the experience of seeing it and seeing a Kubrick project through Spielberg's eyes very interesting.
Yeah, no, that, and also the fact that he literally dropped everything he was doing to service the work of his hero and master to, I've been given this opportunity to finish this, or then I will do that. And listening to bringing back to Blank Check, who are doing a lot of Spielberg deep dives, they brought up the fact that how interesting it is that he only has his name on 3 screenplays: Close Encounters, AI, and The Fabelmans.
Wow.
Even though he's clearly written on all of them.
Sure.
And there's clearly very personal things on a lot of them. But where he took the credit, where he thought, I need to put my name on there, it's this story by Stanley Kubrick and Steven Spielberg. And
I find myself rewatching, ever since I saw it in the theater, Bridge of Spies. I can rewatch it so many times.
Boy, we're on the same page there. I literally was like, because I now have I have 1941. And I was thought, what would be the other Spielberg that I would do? And I would Bridge of Spies. I think it's my favorite of this
era. Yes, agreed.
And Ready Player One being my least favorite, because he shouldn't have been the one who directed it.
No.
It should have been made. It should have been not him who directed it. And but Bridge of Spies is when you go, this is one of those movies that if anybody else directed it and this was the result, Hollywood would have stopped what they were doing and said, look who's here. Well, what's going on here?
YouTube. Justin says the YouTube channel film.
No, AI is a fascinating. It's a fascinating project. It really, really is. And I think for the creators on the horn here, I think what's basically wrong with AI is how it feels. Like when you watch it, like everything has a we talk about this a lot, like the vibe. Like really, when you think about a TV show, rarely does anyone tell you the plot of the show or what's going on or who's running around. There's a premise and a vibe.
Right.
I want to hang out and watch this dude make meth, or I want to hang out in this radio station with these people. It's the hang. And when you're watching a movie that you're like, I'm really into what's going on here, like Bridge of Spies. Well, this is a good hang. These are intelligent people having an intelligent conversation, and I don't know where it's going to go. And versus AI, where you're like, this feels creepy and it's not going to end well.
When the Final Fantasy animated movie came out 20 years ago or whatever,
I bought it on DVD to show you what it is.
Okay, there you go. And it, much like what is generated now by AI, there was something missing. It felt lifeless, and they had good actors.
That's basically the invention of the uncanny valley around that time, where like you're so close to getting it right, except those doe eyes, those Alvin the Chipmunk dead eyes.
Yes,
that are hard to get past.
Well, have you been seeing? I don't know if they come in your algorithms on YouTube, but I've been watching a lot of those, and then actually they show up on Instagram and Facebook video as well. The fake trailers of like Star Wars if it was made in the 50s, or Batman if it was made.
Oh, the AI ones. I made the mistake. I watched once, and I get one every day, and I'm like, I get it. It's the same bit, and it's vaguely clever and interesting, and it's been, by the way, those been going on for like 4 years. Those weird trailers, like that just shows you how like AI is kind of stuck in this.
Yes.
I know there's evolutions. I'm not.
Oh no, it'll happen.
I'm paying high attention to what's going on.
It'll come, but they're really going to have to pay attention to emotion that is behind the eyes that a natural actor will convey. That, I'm sorry, AI, man, it's going to be, man, you are spending a lot of time achieving that blink that will feel real on an AI. I don't know how long it's going to take for us to get to that point.
We hear a lot of creators talk about this in different walks of life. Musicians talk about this as well. Like the response you have to a piece of music is the mistakes in, like, it's not a perfectly played song. Like your favorite rock song has errors in the recording. The Beatles songs are not perfectly recorded. They're just, that's the recording of that song. And the mistake, the human mistake in it is part of the art, right? So when you're watching something that's perfectly rendered in CGI or AI, your brain's like, even like I took my kid to see Close Encounters, and when the sky opened up with that cool effect, then it's literally a process effect a physical effect, it gets a better response than a CGI sludge response. It just you can feel someone's hand on it, and it does change, like even subconsciously, you just feel like you're really watching something. Yeah. And so the same thing goes with comics. Like you want to make something perfect. That's not what people are buying them for. They want to see, when we would read old comics, the color register would be off so hard it would be in the balloon, and it wouldn't bother me. I would like, oh yeah, that's I got one of them where the register's off. Like it's so this quest for perfection in art, when it's not the goal and not obtainable, and in fact creates the opposite feeling than what you would want from a piece of art. It's fascinating. And I think I'm much more zen about it all because I'm old enough to remember, particularly in the illustration fields, like right now, AI is like, oh, that's it for illustration. AI is here. And I'm like, yeah, everyone said that about Photoshop for reals. I was in art school when Photoshop was invented, and I was in an illustration program, and my teacher was like, just ready to jump out a window. Like, oh, I don't know what I bothered learning how to draw for. And I literally remember that tantrum. And you still had to learn how to draw. And I also remember people feeling that way about clip art. They made clip art. They don't need us anymore. There's clip art. And you know what? AI right now is clip art.
I'm with you.
It's clip art with a prompt. And okay, but does it make you feel anything? Does it make you want to aspire to be anything? That's what art is about. So yeah, so think about your favorite song, your favorite movie, your favorite, they all have little mistakes in them that makes you love them more. Goodfellas has editing and continuity mistakes in it. It does. Godfather, someone left a cup on a car in The Godfather. You can see the circle on it, on the thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't.
Excalibur, one of the knights before he goes to battle is literally smoking a cigarette. He puts it down, he picks up his sword, and he runs off with everybody else. Hilarious. And it's right there in the movie. Absolutely, man. Hilarious. So I'm with
Game of Thrones has one too, where there's a Starbucks cup or something just literally sitting on the table, and nobody fucking noticed.
No one
CGI'd it out.
The white trucker van that's in the Ben-Hur chariot scene.
Yep.
And it's there in the Coliseum and everything. I'm with B Things on this. He says, I like the Post a lot, that Spielberg movie, because I'm a typewriter and printing nerd, and seeing All the President's Men as a teenager in the 2010s caused that. Well, I'll tell you, I'll even expand B Things, because I always say you could fall asleep watching All the President's Men, and if you're in a double feature with the paper, you'll wake up in the middle of the paper and
the post of the paper. The post of the paper.
Oh, I meant the Post. The Post. Yeah.
The paper is that excellent Michael Keaton newspaper.
Ron Howard movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. David Kelly? Did David Kelly write
that? David Koepp, who went on to write Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay.
One of my favorite screenwriters, and it's an early
It's a fun movie
by him, which I love.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. Spalding Gray, very funny in that movie.
Oh, very funny in that movie. Yeah.
B Things, I love the multiple repeated shots of R2-D2 in Star Wars, something even slightly different settings. All right.
I love the multiple repeated shots of R2-D2 in Star Wars.
Sometimes even in slightly different settings.
Is that like, I'm follow up on that. I'm not sure I get the reference.
I don't know.
No. I think he's referring to like a Star Wars lore thing that I might not be getting. But anyway, so I'm sorry to go on a big old rant about technology, but I love it. It's improved my life in every way, shape, or form. I love that everyone's got comics in their pocket. I love going on public transport and there's people reading their manga on their phones. It's just a world I would have dreamt of. So that's where I live. And
so B Things was talking about the slight imperfections that you appreciate in creative work.
Oh yeah,
and he likes the repeated shots of R2-D2, sometimes even in slightly different settings.
No, and I also think about like Ridley Scott had a lot of quotes when he was a younger filmmaker, talking about like how he's only made good movies when he had no money. Like every time he's been given
creative solutions.
It's a flabby thing. He literally said, when I get all the money in the world, I get White Squall. When I don't get all the money in the world, I get Blade Runner. And I'm like, yeah, but it's weird that you spent the last 10 years making sure you had all the money in the world. Like there's not, he only does giant productions, right?
And television shows with me. So Profits of Fraction and I are in a Ridley Scott television show.
That's right.
It's called Profits of Science Fiction, and we're very proud to be part of that.
When did it air? What was that on?
2011.
What network?
Oh, it was on one of Discovery's satellite channels, Space, or the Science Channel. Maybe it was the Science Channel. Yeah. Space is the Canadian sci-fi channel. But
I
also
the Sci-Fi Channel. Anyway, the real Sci-Fi.
Oh God,
channel.
I hear you, man. Oh, you mean you don't like Sci-Fi? That shows movies that have nothing to do with sci-fi. But no, I was going to say regarding Profits of Science Fiction, this show that Fresh and I made. There's a great digital channel that I think everybody probably has. If again, whether you have a digital antenna or the ways you get cable or whatever, it's called Story, and they show a lot of old A&E and History Channel shows. And every few months, they run all the episodes of Profits of Science Fiction, and they run it, and it's so great globally because I will get people who listen to Word Balloon or watch Word Balloon in other countries. They go, "Hey, your TV show's on. I'm watching your episodes," because I made 3 episodes. I did Jules Verne.
I remember this now.
It was Jules Verne, Lucas, and
what did Matt do?
And oh God damn it, real fast mine. iRobot, the creator Asimov.
Okay.
They wanted me to do Heinlein. I'm like, I don't know enough about Heinlein to do a Heinlein episode. I said, but I'll do Asimov. I'll do Jules Verne, and everybody was on the Lucas one. I know Matt's on the Lucas one. I'm sure he's on one of the others as well. I'm sure he is, at least one of the others. But that and the show that Oming and I did, Jimmy Church's show, The Unexplained.
Did that ever air?
It did. And again, well, initially it's kind of like, I got my girlfriend. She lives in Canada, so I only see her in the summer. That's why you guys have never met her. But it only ran initially.
It did. Like Oming would come over and go, "I think I'm a host of a TV show." I go, "Is it filming right now? Do you see the cameras?" Like I wasn't sure where he was.
It ran originally only in Canada and Germany, but again, this Story channel takes on because it was made by one of the production houses that made stuff for the History Channel. In fact, it was the same company that made Brad Meltzer's Decoded and Lost History shows. The name of the company was Go Go Lucky. And I'm like, Brad, I'm making a show on your production house. He's like, oh, that's great, man. So I was excited.
I have no judgments. I had a TV show that ran on a game console. So wherever your TV show runs, that's fine.
I'm thrilled, and that's one of my IMDb credits, and the other one is there was that documentary about the theme park that was in New Jersey, and it's called Class Action Park, and it's this great water park where safety was never in it, and they made these homemade rides.
This documentary higher. I believe I skinned an elbow watching it. Like it's just Jesus.
All right, people who know like water slides and they got the tubes you go through and stuff. So they made their own water things, had no OSHA, regulations or anything, and they would pay the kid counselors like $100 bonus if they would test out the rides. And there was one ride, this water tube ride, like a water slide ride, and the first wave of kids would go through. And they'd bang their head or they'd bang their mouth or whatever. The second group were getting cuts on their arms and teeth because the first group lost teeth that were embedded in the rubber of the tubes. So while they're sliding down, they're getting cut by human teeth.
Because some people said they couldn't watch it because it like triggered them to their childhood in such a
I understand.
Why did my parents drop me off here?
Exactly. Exactly. And I just appreciated how crazy it was. And all these people that were kids in the 40s or in the 80s rather, that are our age now are telling these fantastic stories. And it's like, oh man, if you ever worked at any sort of carnival in the summer or anything like this, It's like, oh yeah, but this thing was on a bigger scale. I think it's fascinating. And the water park was next to a Playboy Club. And I put up just on my John Suntra's channel. I haven't put it on Word Balloon, but my dad in the year I was born, but I believe I was probably conceived on this trip. But he took the family to the Playboy Club in Jamaica because there's no better family resort than a bunch of bunnies flopping around. And so all
different
this footage.
Times.
Exactly. And I'm telling you, it was the year I was born, so I didn't get to go. My sister was 5 when she made the trip. But so I put this footage up, and the guy that made the documentary is like, "Hey, can I use your your Playboy Club footage in my documentary. I can't pay you. And I said, as long as you give me a screen credit that you're using my footage, fine. So I am listed in the additional footage credits. And because really I was looking at my IMDb thing and I'm like, what's this class action? Probably, oh, that's that guy that wanted to use my Playboy footage. That's fantastic.
That's amazing.
So that's how it happened, man. And I know, I love that. I love crap. Oh yeah. See, there you go. And yeah, King Sport Cal joining us. Yes, indeed. Class Action Park was insane.
And Mike, yeah, I'm excited about Black Bag as well. I just rewatched.
Here it is.
Lucky Louie. What's this Soderbergh one with Daniel Craig?
Layer Cake.
Not Layer
Cake.
No,
not Layer Cake. That was Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah, it's Matthew Vaughn. No, it's a more recent. It's a Soderbergh. It's another Adam Driver. Big swing.
I don't remember.
Lucky, come on, guy. We could Google it. But anyway, a great there's a couple of really A+ Soderberghs. Lucky Logan, Logan Lucky.
I remember that.
Logan Lucky. It's they go Ocean 7-Eleven. It's like literally that's the
at the racetrack, wasn't it? At the racetrack,
just tremendous. It's just great, and he's got another one with Don Cheadle and Matt Damon called No Sudden Moves that was on HBO. It's one of the HBO dump movies. It is up there with Out of Sight. It is just a great crime movie. So these mid-budget Soderberghs with a big star in them have been among my favorite movies the last 10 years. So I'm hoping that Black Bag is one of those. So fingers crossed.
That's cool. All right, we're winding down
19 movies since retiring.
That's hilarious. I didn't realize he
retired, and then he just kept making movies.
Good.
Like Elton John, he's just announcing, "I'm done." I'm like, "All right, you're not done. Just go take. You need a vacation. Go take a nap.
Well,
go take a nap."
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he misses it. I mean, the road can be tough as you're getting older and stuff. Okay, King Sport Cal says Out of Sight. Good film. I agree.
Great film.
And he says, Bendis, do you feel like you've got another great character in you? I love JJ and Miles.
Well, yes, I think all of them are great, or I wouldn't show them to you. Whether you feel they're great or worth your time is another completely different thing. Anybody I'm working on right now, anything I've dedicated any time to my life to, I feel a deep connection to and love for. I literally love the characters of Phenomena, like family members. I love Joy from Joy Operations. I think about it all the time. I like these characters don't just live on the pages for me. They're like, it's a constant, and just because the project is done doesn't mean I'm stopped thinking about them. The whole goal of Pearl was to like top Jessica Jones in quality, not in cultural whatever, but in our craft of creating characters. So we're certainly swinging for it everywhere we can. So check them out. Again, will they be as big as Miles Morales? I don't know if anything I'll ever do will be as big as Miles Morales, but that isn't always the point of creating things, is to make sure that they're really the biggest thing, just that they're the best version of it that you can do. And I think about it all the time. And I'm kind of grateful for numerous reasons to have things like Miles and Jessica out in the world, because it kind of gives me the feeling, I don't know, it's hard to just, you know what? You'll like this. It was a quote someone said at Jonathan Winters. He was at a grocery store. He's an old man. He's at a grocery store. And he said something to the cashier, and everyone around him heard it and screamed with laughter. Like he just said some funny Jonathan Winters thing and just got a killer laugh. And he turned to someone and said, "Shit, that's all I needed. I didn't need to be in show business. I just needed to make these people laugh once a day." And like, it took him like 80 years to go, "Oh, that's all I needed. I didn't need any of this other shit." And so, but you can only feel that privilege once you've had an experience as big as, let's say, Miles or, Secret Invasion or something like that. Right. So having had them, I know that I'm grateful for the experience, but I also know that what was important to me about making the books was something else. And that part is what I'm focused on right now. And if all of a sudden tomorrow I wake up and Pearl's the new Star Wars, because sometimes that happens, fantastic. But you know, I also know that chasing it is a huge mistake as well. Like we know people who have like, I'm going to create the new Batman. No, you're not. Just create something you really believe in and let other people decide if it's Batman.
Well, and right now I'm the character's name, how he goes in Masterpiece, but your
Emma Lawford, you're talking about the leader? Yeah.
No, the guy that's costumed.
Oh, the Paragon, yeah.
The Paragon, exactly. Because Cal was saying, I'm not saying a big character, I'm saying a good character which you do well. And yeah, I would say Paragon is a very interesting new creation that Brian has done.
And thank you. We love the Paragon. I've written paragraphs of backstory for the Paragon.
I believe it.
So, and hopefully we'll return to that character as well. So yeah. So just so you know, like anything we're publishing, anything like I would deem to ask for you to buy, I really think is special, or I wouldn't bother. I write stuff all the time and go, no, I don't need to share this. I don't need to sell it. But when we really come up with something that's got a few, it's not even a unique thing, a few unique things in it that are driving me to show it to you, then I run to show it to you. And like a perfect example would be Joy Operations, because it's a thing that like you have to like kind of read the first issue to get like, oh, okay, I see where we're going. And it was like a couple things right now. I don't want to ruin it for you. I want you to experience it as we discovered it. And it's a bit of a narrative trick, and it's very exciting to me. I've never tried it before. It scared me. There's also situations where I'm in a collaborative relationship with someone, and the whole point is for us to be our best selves for each other. Like when I'm with a new creator friend like Andre Lima, who is a new friend compared to David Mack, who I've been making comics with for 30 years, right? Yeah. So when I get together with David or Mike Oeming, it's let's live up to this friendship. We know where we can go, let's go higher. Or let's push, like, or we know where we don't go, right? And with Andre, it's like, oh, let's push each other into these new spaces. So anytime I find myself in a place where the collaboration brought forth something that wasn't in me before, I can't wait to show it to you. I can't wait. It's cool. The best thing. So that's where the characters are coming from.
We're going to wrap up, but I want to know if Brian has.
Fine.
I know. Well, again, I
think people are still with us. Thank you for hanging out with us.
I didn't mean to go 3 hours with you. I really didn't. But when
I literally said, let's do an hour and get out of here.
Usually, and I understand. I know you got shit to do.
But this is the magic of your show, John. And this is the only place this happens in comics is here. And I'm really proud to be part of the DNA of it. I really am.
It's because of people like you, Brian, that are willing to come on and do these marathon talks. And again, my feeling is, my hypothetical is, hey, you got George Lucas, and oh, that's great. Hey, listen, if you need 3 hours, I'm happy to talk to you as long as you want. Well, the average listen is really only 40 minutes. So if it's okay, let's just keep it at that. And again, I respect the shows that do that, but I also am like, again, coming from radio, I just know whenever it's Bill Maher said this. And I don't mean
you can stop right there. You don't have to finish the quote.
No. It's actually a very important point. And he's like, I don't understand that the average video people will spend 30 seconds or even 10 seconds on, but for a podcast, they want 3 hours. And if God forbid you give them an hour or less, they're mad. And it's like, yeah, man, because if
I'm enjoying the conversation, I don't care how I bring more, please. And that's like back to Blank Check and like Scott hasn't seen. Like go, man. Don't stop yourself. Go until you're done talking. And you're done talking, you hang up, and you can come back and forth as all you want. Do we got any good ones before we?
Well, I do you have anything bad to say about
the Penguin? Not even one.
I like the Penguin, so I disagree.
Really like it though, right?
No, I thought it seemed like it was well received. I could be wrong, but I thought it was well received.
Again, Peaky Blinders ruined me for the year. It literally, like, there's other things I'm waiting on just because I could tell like my Peaky Blinders experience will taint my Penguin experience.
Yeah. Sport Cal, I appreciate, because you say I get all the A-list comic people. Why is my channel not huge? The audio is. That's the great thing. Honestly, I should have tried doing more video 15 even longer years, like 2009. I probably should have stuck with doing video more. it's hard to, if you don't know the algorithms, it's really hard to crack YouTube's massive audiences. But luckily, I've been doing the audio for 20 years. And that's really, because I'm always worried about new creators that come on. And I'm like, oh, we only got like 200 views on YouTube. I'm like, well, first of all, it's also at Facebook, and there are several hundred more. And I'm like, and then there's several thousand more on the audio. I'm like, so don't worry, you know.
Also, we're comic book people. We have faces for radio. That's what people would rather just listen. But I I kind of like that we are not beholden to anything but our impulses creatively to talk about what we want to talk about, and that I'd rather have that conversation with a few hundred very interested people than the other thing. Yeah, I have both. I like this. It's great. Also, you know, that other quote that floats around Instagram all the time, I requote it all the time about why does everything have to be the most successful thing? Seinfeld said it. Like, what happened to just having a cool job? Like, when like no one ever asked you like what you make or blah blah. It's just like, is your job cool to you? Do you like your job? Are you? Then that's it. That's all that matters.
Like you said about Jonathan Winters, I always put myself in band terms, and I'm like a good bar band. I'm not gonna sell out your stadium, but my fans know that they're gonna get a good ride every time they show up for one of my sessions, and that's fine for me. I'm thrilled by that. And I'm not the biggest comic book podcast out there. I'm not the biggest YouTube show out there, but again, I like what I do. I'm confident in what I do, and I'm thrilled that the people like that everyone is here in the chat and everybody listening right now enjoys the show. That's great.
And also, like, there's no some of these hot take podcasts, and not just comics, but ones that come in hot because that's their business model. Is that I have to say something that's going to generate buzz, and it's not always honest. And I'd rather have an honest conversation about Paul Schrader's later work than.
But we'll give it up to him for autofocus and the kinkiness of that fine film.
Yeah, and also like what he brought to the Scorseses of the world, like his uneasy collaboration brought good work out of them. Like even though you can see they're driving each other crazy. I don't know. It's fun to read about them. Read Easy Rider, Raging Bull. They talk about a lot about Paul Schrader, and also was the other one, the one who wrote Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, I don't know who the Milos. I don't know.
Milius. John Milius.
I don't remember who wrote it.
John Milius. He also wrote 1941. He's just like this guy.
Oh, did Milius write it and direct it? I didn't realize that.
Conan the Barbarian. Yeah, that's what he's famous for.
No, I know, but I always thought as a director, not as a writer. I didn't realize.
No. But John Milius was a writer who then moved on to direct.
I understand.
Very macho movies, you know.
Oh yeah.
But even his presence in that group of film nerds, like that. If the energy is Spielberg and this guy's standing there, I don't know. It's just it's cool to me. All right.
No, I agree with you. People are saying nice things. I appreciate it. Lance, very nice. Thanks for allowing us to as an ear to your friendships with creators. It's my pleasure. And
I appreciate that.
People thank you.
One of my goals in with teaching too is to show people, you know, there's a lot of pretty toxic shit out there about people misbehaving and treating people poorly, and it's all true and it's terrible. There's also waves of creators that treat each other well, that treat each other like family, that are there for each other, that support each other, that aren't competitive at all, that are just really rooting for the best versions of everyone to be for it. And I'm in a couple of those spaces with my friends, and it just became clear that if we can, we should share that energy with people so they know it's out there and they can go make it with their friends. Like you and your friends can get together and go make comics together for the rest of your lives and really be empowered and this be your family, and there's nothing standing your way from doing it. And it's just up to you guys to treat each other with respect and really understand, like really, really respect each other on every conceivable level. And that the payback that you get is enormous. Like, and we've expressed some of that here on the podcast, and other guests who have come through here have talked about it. But so that, like, I like to, like, you know, the shitty headlines are always going to be the loudest, and the quiet, cool people are always going to be like not as appealing to a headline. But like, I want you to know, if you guys want to make comics with your friends, go do it. It is a life worth living. It is something special.
Let's go through once again. Right now, everybody.
I think I ended very well there. Okay.
Well, I just want to give you the chance to plug before you leave.
Oh,
Fortune and Glory the musical, out from Dark Horse.
Yes, with our new releases at Dark Horse are Fortune and Glory the musical, which is my true story about how I was hired to write the Spider-Man Broadway musical and completely botched it. And this happened 7 years before the musical hit the stage. So it is a very unique little chapter. But as I described earlier, it is really a autobiography about why I love comics and why I love Spider-Man and why I ended up here, and being able to express my feelings about this, including finding another medium in which to embarrass Walt Simonson for his kindness to me as a child. And I think I've done them all, and someone's going to have to invent a new medium for me to embarrass him in. And also out from Dark Horse is a Masterpiece, my new creator-owned crime series with Alex Maleev. I'm really, really proud of it. And The Ones with Jacob Edgar, we're putting out a new volume this year. We're working on it right now. And coming soon, sometime this year, through Dark Horse Comics, will be the special announcement that is the 25th anniversary of Powers. And I know that some of the people on this very call have been with us since the very early days of Powers, and I cannot tell you how much we appreciate it and what a joy it feels like to be working on that. And as Mark Admet says, if you want to join a place where people are respectful creatively, please come to the Jinxworld Discord. Right now it's behind the jinxworld.com newsletter. We will be opening up the Discord to Powers fans once Powers comes back into print soon. So on there, I will say my favorite server on the Discord server is everyone is kind of promoting their own comics. Like everyone's kind of like helping each other through building their own little comic book publishing worlds. And what Mark is referring to is like just watching people every day, week after week, just really support each other and watching people grow. And now we're getting into a space where some people are getting little and big wins, like stuff like publishers are calling and things are happening. And it's kind of amazing. And even like Griffin and Ethan, who are running my website, who have been on your show, the guys who did Kill Your Darlings, and they were running my website and running Donny Cates's website. They're having an amazing year. And it just watching everyone ascend into their new spaces has been quite wonderful. So
that's excellent, man. Very, very cool.
And I really dished the dirt on the server. That's what Mark is saying. If you want to hear me talk shit, go to the Discord.
There you go. That's cool. No, another great fun conversation, my friend. I appreciate it.
We did it.
And
all right, hit the Word Balloon Patreon and support all of John's advertisers, including Alex Ross, and let them know you came from Word Balloon.
That's right.
Helps. It absolutely
it really does, everybody. So thank you for, as always, watching and listening. And Brian, thank you for talking. And until next time, I'm hoping to be talking to Alex Segura on Thursday, but he keeps postponing me. And I'm going to have to remind him that it might be in his best interest to talk to me. That's all right. Alex and I, we're fine. We had our moments of getting on each other's nerves, so that's okay. We like each other now. So,
I'm a big fan of Alex.
Oh God, he's killing it.
I'm really rooting for him. So I hope he does show up, and if he doesn't,
He will. It's you guys all have kids, and I so respect it. I truly do. And he's like, God, I'm so sorry. My wife's got to do this thing. I can't do it. Can we move it? I know I've moved it 2 times already. I'm like, no problem, man. It's all right. It's all right. So hopefully, and if not, more Word Balloon 20th anniversary highlights, because I've got
let's promote that too. If for people who aren't, if you haven't subscribed, which you should, on the podcast, on
the audio,
John's been releasing re-releasing like a big 20th anniversary best ofs, and some of them I missed the first time, and I was like, oh great, like they're really along the lines of the SNL docs. They're like great little windows into moments that I think a lot of you would really dig.
And that's been the wonderful thing about doing Word Balloon as long as I have is, again, bringing back some of these wonderful conversations from not only people still around, and this is what Gail Simone was thinking of when she created Secret Six, to hey, let's have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on, and you find out what kind of big nerd and a Brian Bendis fan, I might add.
Boy, that one, I don't think I'll ever get over that. Just not to be braggy, but like I woke up one day and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wrote a whole newsletter about Pearl of all the fucking things. And I was like, it was literally as if I hired someone. I said, I'm going to give you $100. I want you to write the following words about me.
Yeah.
And he like it was incredible experience. I do think that's why it got some time being developed as a TV show because of those kind words. So I'm really appreciative. So
I believe it. I believe it, man.
All right. So, next time we talk, I have such weird shit going on behind the scenes that I'm curious the next time we talk, what will have come through. I'm going to make a list when we hang up and I'll see what came true between now and then. And
all right. All right. I'm gonna beg you for like 2 or 3 minutes before we say goodbye to each other. But for the broadcast now, we're gonna wrap up. Everybody stay happy, stay healthy, and
thank you for hanging out. I really appreciate it. See you on Jinxworld. That's really cool, you guys.
All right. Absolutely. All right. Take care, everybody. Please support the Word Balloon podcast by going to patreon.com/wordballoon. Become a part of the League of Word Balloon listeners. That's patreon.com/wordballoon.